Go live button.
All right, I am recording.
And we are live.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Green Factory.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Green Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
How's everyone doing this week? Lots of crazy stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
I know
what
my next week of work is going to be challenging. I'm one of 17 people lucky enough selected to come into work next week. No production is running. Again, we didn't run very much production this week, but next week we were planning on running, but thanks to what's going on in Canada, we can't get a bunch of parts we need, so we'll just be in there. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. Probably loading trucks. So yeah, because the Freedom Brigade is on the Ambassador Bridge and it's been there all week, and you can't get anything back and forth across it. So I heard they're trying to clear it, but I don't know. I don't know what that whole mess is all about. Doesn't seem to be very well thought out, but who knows? I mean, if it was about like wages and standard of living and stuff like that, yeah. I mean, I've always said, hey, if you want to bring out the AR-15s and head to the State House over healthcare or something, I'm all for it. But it never seems to happen for stuff like that. It's always crazy stuff. So, but that's what's going on here. And then like war, the Ukraine's going to be invaded at any moment. I don't know if anyone's heard that.
No, I saw some rumor that something from German intelligence says they found some memo that says Russians going to invade Ukraine on the 16th.
Oh, okay.
So probably can't trust any of that, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, they got 100,000 troops strategically positioned all around Ukraine. So
it was a post-it note that Putin left on his desk: "Invade Ukraine on the 16th." Just circled and underlined.
Right after Get Milk.
Some interesting things about the Ukraine, though. One of the few Soviet bloc countries, former Soviet bloc countries, whose economy has actually shrank since the collapse of the Soviet Union. They've actually gotten poorer since they left the Soviet Union.
Yeah, and did anybody else watch those videos around the last seizure of like Chimera and stuff like that? And they took over that area, and they're like, oh, they actually lost money on that by taking it over. But at the same time, Ukraine wasn't doing anything with it either, so I don't know.
Well, they had to rebuild all this infrastructure that was because they thought they were going to take it over and have access to a functional seaport and stuff. And like, oh no, you got to put like $40 billion into rebuilding it. Yeah, and a lot of those Ukrainian national resistance groups use like Nazi imagery in their like freedom patches that they put on their homemade uniforms and stuff. And their uniforms are homemade, however their weapons are supplied and training supplied by Canada in a lot of cases because the biggest diaspora of Ukrainians is in Canada. So there's a big Canada spent like $1 billion last year training Ukrainian military and resistance fighters. It's like, oh, that's unusual. I didn't see that connection, but
yeah, I saw something weird.
Sorry.
Well, you're talking about how like the Ukrainians have like some Nazi imagery on their stuff. Like there's a thing with
the nationalist resistance groups, not the official army, but yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, there's Forgotten Weapons. Ian, he has a publishing arm called Headstamp Publishing.
Yeah.
And they're gonna publish like this memoir about like fighting in Ukraine or something like that in the Eastern Bloc, and then they had to like pull everything in reverse because I guess eventually they found out the guy writing it was like a neo-Nazi or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There. I guess Ukraine is full of Nazis. Weirdly enough, I didn't know that, or neo-Nazis or whatever. But when you look at the history of the Ukraine during the Second World War, I mean, one of their biggest things when the Germans took over was the Ukrainians published like a newspaper that helped you figure out who all your Jewish neighbors were, and Ukrainians did an excellent job of rounding up the Jews in Ukraine and killing them for the Nazis. Like sometimes killing so many, the Nazis were like, you got to slow down. Gotta temper it a little bit, guys. You just because half the people they pulled out of they find the guys in the Chevy plants here in the 80s and 90s that were, it was like, oh, he was the angel of death at Dock Hour. Half those guys were Ukrainians that the Germans like, hey, do you want to work in a death camp? And they were like, yes, I do. Like it's like they a lot of those guys like Demyanu, that guy they pulled out of the Cleveland plant. It's like, yeah, he was Ukrainian. He wasn't German. So yeah, they have a lot of, I don't know why that is or why, but
I guess close to the source, I guess.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, they weren't big fans of the Russians. I know that. I mean, because Stalin didn't do the Ukrainians any favors. You ever heard of that thing called the Holodomor or whatever?
No.
It was the famine where millions of Ukrainians starved to death because when the Soviets collectivized Ukrainian farms, they just took all the food back to Russia. And it's like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, because I know they used to say that Ukraine was the breadbasket of Russia. It's like where they grew most of their food.
Most of their grain. That's because they had the two rivers that run through there is very fertile. And they blew up a nuclear reactor on one of them. That kind of put the kibosh to that. But yeah, that's so I don't know what that's going to mean.
Now they make video games.
Well, I was listening to these guys talk about it's one of those geostrategic podcasts I listen to where the guys are like probably way too smart for me to understand everything, but they were explaining like the big question is like, why is Putin doing this? And it's like, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons, but one of the big things that's come up recently is Russia cannot borrow any more money. Their economy has shrunk like 40% since 2008 or 2009 or something, and they're to the point they can't borrow anymore. All they're doing is they're doing the same thing the Soviet Union was doing. They're just cruising on petrodollars.
Yeah, that's what they've always done.
Well, they did have kind of an internal economy after a lot of money went in there to develop stuff after the fall of the Soviet Union, but they've gone right back to this deep corruption and evil.
Yeah.
So no one wants
well, they used to have like, patents on like cool science stuff, and now that's just all in China now. Yeah. Now China has all the cool patents and stuff.
Which is weird because China doesn't recognize patent law, so it's
Yeah, but they have companies that go for patents in America.
Oh yeah, I mean we're just like,
I forget, there was an article I read about like how when it's comparing, it uses patents and stuff like that and new medical breakthroughs as a comparative, like who's rising in the economic thing, and it's like Russia is just like fucking plummeted. It's like China's up at top, but like America's not far behind, but it's like Russia's nowhere.
Yeah,
they basically just have no growing science industry or something.
Which is weird because Russia's really good at educating people. I mean, they produce a lot of scientists there, but
yeah,
I don't think they stay
just
there
because they just all leave, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like all of our like ancient code base at like ingrained technology companies, like whatever the fuck IBM does or GE, that's just like like they built some archaic code base that they can't take back. So the only people that can keep it alive and keep it going are fucking Russians because they know how to circumvent things.
Actually, the people that have literally originally coded that stuff are dead now, or like in dementia or something. So, yeah, bring in those plucky Russians to find workarounds to this, Unix workstation from 1978. It's like, those are your guys. What IBM does now is they make computers for the government, and they do all kinds of weird government stuff.
Yeah, I do supercomputers and stuff. But.
Well, the government got back into mainframes like in 2012. They're not doing the independent because those networks are too open. So like the DOE and all those places that used to have like all the little computers kind of like what the internet is. It's like, oh yeah, that's wide open for attack. What if can we make mainframes now? It's like, oh yeah, sure, but it's going to cost a fortune. It's like, that's okay. We're the government. Because they learned from like our nuclear weapons systems when they were putting floppy disks in them as big as pizza boxes to keep the nuclear missiles running, and everyone laughed. It's like, why are our systems so old? And it's like, because you can't hack into them. That's why. I mean, they say the Russians still have like key cipher, key code like programming, like where it's a mechanical wheel. Like they kept all that stuff too because you can't hack into it. But yeah, so that's what's going on in the world.
And I have a F1 update and a regression.
All right.
So I finished watching the 2013 season.
Okay.
Which is just pretty much pure Sebastian Vettel dominance. He won 14 races that season, like out of 20.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like one of the most dominant seasons ever. There's even this comparison they're showing like the most wins by a team in a season, and it's like most wins is like 18. It was like Hamilton and Rosberg in a season won 18 races, and then one of them is Vettel, and like he won all the races. His teammate didn't win any.
Wow.
Yeah. So Red Bull was like just pure. And there's like this weird thing, like there's some cool things. He celebrates in India. He wins the championship in India with like 4 races to go. He does donuts at like the start line, gets out of his car and like bows to his car. It's fun. And he gets like a $10,000 fine for doing all that stuff. Yeah. But then like at the last race of the season, which again he wins, he has like this sad prediction where he's like kind of crying on the radio, and he's like, remember these times, these are the good times, they don't last forever, which is like a sad prediction because the next year he's still at Red Bull. He never wins a race ever again with Red Bull.
Oh wow.
Huh. And then he goes to Ferrari and he kind of puts up a challenge with Hamilton, but he wins a couple races, but he hasn't won a race in for like 3 years or 4 years.
Yeah, you don't hear. He's always there, but you don't hear about him.
Yeah, but yeah, this season, it's like, oh yeah, this guy is brilliant. Also that last race is kind of funny because Mark Webber was getting replaced by Daniel Ricciardo. And like he at the end of the race, he like takes off his helmet and like the balaclava or whatever, and he's just driving around without a helmet on. He's like, well, he's probably getting a fine for that, but he also doesn't give a shit. And it was like so weird. It was like, oh, that's super dangerous, but like, he doesn't give it. I'd never seen that before. Just somebody chilling without the helmet on in an F1 car.
Yeah, that's unusual.
I think this is the last season that had the Korean GP, and it was once again a great race. So that I don't know what makes it a good race, but every Korean GP I've seen was a good race. So they should probably bring it back. I don't know what makes it good, but it just ends up good. Because even though like Sebastian Vettel like also won that race, it's like it started out and like Grosjean like gets out front. But it's one of those weird things where like he's out front, but like he's like actually not in the lead because he's gonna have to like pit two more times because of his tire strategy, and Vettel's only have to pit once, and so it's like he's in the lead, but he's not really in the lead. It's one of those where it's like weird.
Yeah.
So it's that 4-dimensional chess that of F1 that makes things weird. It's like, he's leading the race, he's gonna win. It's like, no, he isn't. Actually, he's gonna come in like 12.
Yep. I've already got that like a chart with a diagram.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Here it goes down. As the tires decay, his place goes down.
Oh, we has to pit. Yeah, because like, yeah, you'll see the guys on the pit wall, and they'll have like these computers they're looking at, and it's like they're just looking at data, and they can just predict the race. But what you don't see is like all those teams just have like a war games full of people in a computer room somewhere that have all the data. They're also looking over it and like sending information to them. It's like crazy.
Oh yeah,
it's like it's actually like it makes that's where it's better that the less information you know about the race, it makes it more like intriguing, because it's like, oh, anything could happen, and like for like 99% of the time it's like basically like the computer algorithm has figured out who's going to win this race.
It's kind of like watching Moneyball. It's like, oh, okay, it does make sense.
And then eventually, every once in a while, you know, someone plays bowling balls and like 5 cars get knocked out of the race. It's like, now we have a race, guys.
Now the data has the giant Rehoboam simulation, like the dots are moving violently in one direction now. Speaking of which, talk about crazy control rooms. Have you ever seen the control room where they watch NBA games to make sure the calls are correct?
No.
Oh, it's insane. It's like it looks like something out of like War Games. Like it's because you know they had that big cheating scandal with the refs in I forget when it was, like 2005, 2006, where refs were actually taking bribes.
Oh yeah.
Prove okay. Well, the NBA said this will never happen again.
Huh. They
literally have like rooms full of high definition cameras. And like 8 guys are watching this one play from 20 different angles, and they're on their mic. It's like, yeah, I think that's the right one. Yeah, he clearly stepped over the foul line. Yeah. But that's all being confirmed like in real time, because you have to keep the games going. You can't stop for instant replay. It's basketball. Yeah. Look up that control room on the computer. It's like, just see a picture of it. It's like, oh, this is insane, because they have cameras covering every angle of the game, floor level to ceiling. It's nuts.
Huh.
But yeah, go ahead.
That's pretty cool. I didn't think. I was like, in the next year, it was an interesting kind of technical thing they did where it's like, you still kind of hear it if you watch IndyCar. You hear the radio transfer, and it's the radio where you hear them calling from the car, and it sounds like some kind of World War II thing where it's like, is there an artillery barrage going in the background? It's like, no, there's an engine exploding behind my head. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
And like and even like F2 still sounds like that, but they do something different in 2014 with the audio, where they have like some like cool filter on it, where you can clearly hear the drivers and the engine isn't like well, also they switched to a smaller engine and it's more electrical powered, so it just kind of makes less noise, but it was interesting.
Well, they probably figured out, like, through the microphone, it's like, what frequencies are coming through that aren't a human voice? And it's like, well, eliminate all those frequencies. And then all of a sudden that's like how your noise canceling headphones work. Like, they're not really canceling noise. They're just canceling the noise you perceive.
But it's weird. It must be crazy expensive, because the only racing sports that are that clear is F1. Like, all the other ones still sound like they're in the middle of a World War II artillery barrage.
Oh yeah, F1 is the sport of kings. There's no money they won't spend.
And there's also 2013. There was a crazy moment where Weber comes into pit, and like the wheel doesn't go completely on like the like right rear tire, and so all the power, they're rear wheel drive cars, so all the power goes to the wheels. So he spins up the car to get out of the pit lane, and that tire flies off and goes forward. And you just see all the mechanics out there are like jumping it. They're just splitting the seat, getting out of the way of this tire flying down the pit lane. And there's a camera guy not looking, focusing on something else, and it fucking nails this guy.
Surprised he wasn't killed.
Oh yeah. I was like, is that guy okay? But yeah, he was. So they probably edited that out of the broadcast if he had died from that. But yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. It's a lot of weight and force hitting you with a lot of energy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's 2013 season, so yeah, it's there's some interesting stuff there, but yeah, it's pretty much just Vettel wins 9 races in a row, so it's like it's crazy. I don't think anybody else has ever matched that, at least not in a season. I think that's like
Hamilton hasn't won 9 in a row.
Huh?
Hamilton
No,
Oh, okay.
he's won 6 in a row like several times, but never 9.
Oh, okay.
I think technically there's a guy like Ascari from like the original days of F1, like when they only had like 5 races in a season. I think he technically won 9 races in a row, but it was like between seasons or something.
Okay.
But anyways,
yeah, ancient F1 is cool. Like from the 60s, it's like, oh, someone's gonna die today.
And then so yeah, I'm starting to roll into the 2014 season, which that's when they switched over to the turbo hybrid engines.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool season. Like, even though the Mercedes have won 6 races in a row, and it's like clearly nobody's catching them, but like everywhere, like there's packs of racing all over the place, because you have the Mercedes at the front, but you have Hamilton and Rosberg are like racing each other for their lives. Like there's racing at the front, there's racing in the middle, and there's racing at the back. It's a pretty cool season, and like there are a lot of things are just a lot of monkeys in the wrenches, or how do you say that? Yeah, a lot of monkey wrenches in the works, or how do you say it? Or monkey?
Monkey wrenches.
Yeah,
throw a wrench in the works.
Yeah, wrench in the works. I'm confusing things. That's what's happening on a podcast. You try to say something and your mind gets blocked by a bunch of other things. And then
I know. I have 13 years of experience of, hey, remember that? Yeah. So I know.
I remember like one of the podcasts, I couldn't remember how to say wedding ring. I was like, the marriage band?
the circular pact? Steel band? Love ring? Oh, no, that's something else.
But because the rule changes, there's like horrible reliability issues like all over the field. Like even the first race, like Lewis Hamilton has to retire the car because one of the spark plugs isn't firing in one of the valves.
Wow.
They had the Australian one, they had to like restart the race several times because the I think it was the Marussias, like their cars stalled on the grid, which that is horrifying.
Yeah, it's death.
Yeah, because if like imagine, well, luckily that the Marussia sucked, so they were at the back. But like if you have somebody stall on the grid in the middle, it's like the guy directly behind him, he's like goes around him, but like the guy like 2 guys back doesn't know that guy's stalled and will run directly into the back of him.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be sitting in that car.
Yeah, it's horrifying. That stuff that weird that happened in F2 race last year.
Now how do they restart those? They bring the big contraption on the field and spin the crank, or
yeah, they had to. So for that one, they had to. They had to do another formation lap, because you ever see like when they start a race, there's a guy in the back that waves a green flag and as he walks by. Well, they had people at that point. They had people raising yellow flags because it's like somebody's raising their hand. It means they're stalled. So they do another formation lap, and then so they take that car and they push it back into the pit lane, and then they can restart it with that large like ratchet gun they have.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know this, Andrew. F1 cars don't have starters on them because it's too much weight.
And also, you couldn't make. Yeah, you'd have to have a starter as big as like a coffee can. It requires a tremendous amount of torque to spin those engines over.
Well, if you get some charge in them, they can turn over. If there's charge in the electrical engine, it can like kick it over.
Oh, they have magnetos that swing around.
Yeah, because that's what happened to Perez. Like his car like turned off like when he was doing the formation lap, and then like he like undid the steering wheel, put it back on, and reset the system. Because they had a charge in the batteries, he could use the battery charge to spin over the engine with the electrical engine or something.
It's pretty ballsy to pull your steering wheel out of its latch. Hold on, everyone.
Well, he wasn't moving. He parked it on the side of the road.
Oh, I thought he was like doing it while he was rolling to a stop. Like,
Although I've seen that, I can't remember I saw that. I'm not sure that was like IndyCar or something else. But yeah, that guy's the wheel popped off while he was like taking a turn, and he just like, well, we're crashing.
Yeah, it's almost like a gag, like they used to have the World War II gag movies where the guys are flying the airplane and then he just pulls the stick up like, here you go, you know,
Yeah.
because they got shot loose or something.
And then this is where Botas is in. He's in a Williams, and man, in that Williams it has a Mercedes engine, and I think their arrow just kind of like their arrow was just meant for straight line speed. So that thing's a rocket ship, but it can't turn, but it can go fast. And yeah, Botas is like, oh, Botas can pass people. He does actually have skills. He does have, what do they call that? Like, yeah, just racing skill. I can't remember what they call it. Racecraft. That's what they got. He does have
Range
racecraft.
skill. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't just follow the line.
But yeah, it's only because he gets compared to Lewis Hamilton later on. He just looks like he's garbage, but like, oh no, he's really good. Because like this is like his first year in F1.
Yeah, it looks terrible. Remember, people, he's the third best guy in the world. at
Yeah,
doing this.
yeah. There was one race where like the it's what is it? It's in Canada, and the cars have what it's called KERS, the Kinetic Energy Recovery System, which it uses the back wheels and it kind of acts as a brake. When it recovers energy, it kind of brakes for you, so that they don't have to put as big brakes on the back. And and so in Canada, both cars, the KERS system fails, so it's no longer braking for them, and it just liquefies the back brakes when they shove the brakes.
We're free floating now. Ever seen carbon ceramic turn into oil? Watch this.
Yes, that was pretty crazy. So that's what I saw.
It's pretty bad when you can like take asbestos fiber and just turn it into melted plastic.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's a lot of force.
Which I haven't seen that brake problems were a problem for a while, but I haven't seen that for a while where someone had retired because the brakes were a problem. But that was a problem for quite a while in this era.
Yeah, but they came up with elaborate cooling systems to compensate for that, right?
I don't know. I don't know what they did, because they're like all made, because it's one of those things where it's like the teams don't have to make the brakes; they're all supplied by the same supplier. So
yeah, they're just standardized safety product. Yeah,
but yeah, it's like it's the cooling thing that the teams have to do.
Yeah, I've seen that when those cars come in to pit or whatever, and they're just smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Those I don't know how they keep a bead on those rims. Rims have got to be like to almost 300 degrees or something.
Yeah, those brakes are cooled by air, so like when you slow down, the brakes catch on fire.
Yeah, smoke pouring out of the. What's on? Is the car on fire? No, he's just supplying his brakes.
Yeah, just heating the brakes and tires.
Almost to the temperature of molten liquid rubber. Like, yeah, just 2 degrees off.
But yeah, for actually modern F1, we've had 3 car reveals recently.
Yeah, I saw one on.
Actually, we had 4, because we had McLaren. Although you can't really call the Red Bull one a release or a reveal, because so the FIA has those show cars and they send them out to all the teams, and they basically just painted one of their show cars their color scheme. So that car actually is nothing, probably isn't anything close to like what the actual car is going to be. So that's just
I saw the McLaren one on YouTube. So I'm subscribed to McLaren F1.
Yeah.
YouTube, so.
Yeah, so Haas just like put out some pictures there. Has kind of like a teardrop shape to it. The side pod air intakes are like very small and like circular. And then the rear wing doesn't have a DRS thing on it. So I don't know. It didn't seem like they're doing anything special, but Hopefully they.
The McLaren one kind of looked like a Klingon bird of prey, sort of. It has that weird nose in the front, and
Yeah.
you can definitely tell it's different. I mean, it's still an F1 race car. Like, it's not so different, but it's like, oh, that's different. Okay.
Actually, the thing about the McLaren one is the rear end of it is like the exhaust is a lot wider than all the other ones. It has like this huge open in the back. Like there's the exhaust pipe, but then there's this like giant opening in the back. So the back has kind of like this square back into it. So that's, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it looks cool. And they got some kind of the coloring, blue orange coloring to make colorblind people happy, because that's one of those the few colors that colorblind people can always differentiate from is blue and orange.
Oh, okay. Well, good. These are the vacuum cleaners, right?
Yeah. So they have the Venturi tunnels underneath.
Yeah.
But the one that probably looks the coolest and it's the most different from everything was the Aston Martin one.
Oh yeah.
So they don't have their BWT sponsor, so they don't have to have pink on the car. So it looks more like a standard Aston Martin kind of livery.
British Racing Green.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a bit more shiny this time around. It looks cool.
Okay.
They're like the body of the car is a lot wider than all the other ones, where like everyone has kind of like a teardrop. This one's more like an opal.
Yeah.
And it has like these giant radiator fins going on. It looks like gills. Like it looks cool. And like the front end, the front wing is like, it's kind of like crunched in, like almost like pursed lips. So it looks like they're trying to like drive more air under the car because that's to create more suction. And I didn't see any other team. So like, it's the most different car. So either there's going to be a big whiff or they'll be at the front. I don't know.
How much of this is proof of concept? That's what you got to wonder. It's like, where are they going from here? How much once they start racing? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, because they've had like basically an extra 2 years to figure these cars out.
Yeah.
So
time.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I kind of want to do. I want to do like a little predictions for this. And Andrew, you can join in. Andrew, is he there?
Sorry, sorry, I was drinking. I was kind of tuned out a little bit because it's F1, so I wasn't trying to spoil your guys' fun because I know you guys enjoy it.
It's a good season to join in because there's a rule change, and so like the cars are going to be not completely different, but they're going to be very different.
I mean, I guess I've liked racing video games somewhat, but I've never liked watching racing in person.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And we'll give F1 one thing.
Because they make it exciting. They do a lot of like different angles on the race. Because when Conlon started this, I wasn't too enthralled, but it's the only racing I was somewhat familiar with. So I was like, yeah, okay. But then I started watching the races every Sunday and having to avoid the news because, in America, it's like the race has been over for hours, and it's the way they do it, the way they film it is interesting. They really make it interesting for everyone. So you might like it. You might want to watch one just to see.
No,
if you don't like it, then
I'll watch some highlights maybe or something.
Yeah. That's how I started. That's how I started watching it.
Yeah,
because there's only so much. Because like I've kind of gotten to IndyCar, but I don't watch full length IndyCar races. But they have fantastic YouTube rewinds, so they'll have like, here's a 5-minute, like here directly after the race, somebody will put some stuff together, and here's like a 5-minute summation of recap of the race, and then the next day they'll have a 30-minute recap, which just kind of has like more info on like what's going on in the field and stuff like that. But it's hard to watch F1. Or it's hard to watch IndyCar because their commentary is so absurd. It's like, oh, Marcus Ericsson in the Husky chocolate racing car, because they call out the sponsorships like in the commentary. It's so bad.
It's not NASCAR. God damn it! I mean, I know that they're branded too. It's not just drivers. There's sponsors and shit.
Good thing about F1 commentary, they don't do that shit at all. They're not calling out sponsorships on the cars.
Look at that Tide car go, everybody! It'll clean your clothes just as fast.
I think what was it? It was like, yeah, someone's like, it's the the something like 24-hour relief car, and they'd say the whole sentence.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
The Valtrex 24-hour relief car, 24-hour relief, 24-hour erection. Oh, wrong product.
The Viagra car coming up hard, always.
Well, I got on to some predictions for the season, and like sometimes knowing too much, because I do the F1 fantasy, and like I feel like I did better in my first season of it because I didn't know as much, and now that I know too much, I ended up making wrong guesses. I should have gone. So I was gonna have fun here and like let's all make predictions, and you being completely uninformed about this stuff, like you'll probably come out ahead.
No, I mean, I know there's a couple popular drivers. There's stuff on Reddit all the time, like, oh, I ran into this driver in the wild, or stuff like that. But like, I know IndyCar is more popular than ever, and it seems to be gaining good traction. It's like golf. I've never wanted to watch golf, never thought I'd be interested in golf, so I don't seek it out. Same with MMA or UFC.
No, I'm not telling you have to watch. I'm just saying like it's a good time to get in if you get in, but you don't. Maybe you should get into Formula E. Formula E is fucking wacky.
Okay.
Cool to watch.
Yeah, because they have a thing called fan boost where it's like whoever gets like the most Twitter follows gets like an extra like they can use more of their like a surge of electricity to power their engine and during the race. There's like these little moments. There's like an unideal part of the track where it's like nobody would drive over there, but it's like this little grid that when you drive over it, you unlock like a boost to your car. So it's literally like a video game.
That's fucking weird.
They have a lot of fun with Formula E.
Yeah. I mean, there's one where like, cause they're electric cars, they had the part of the race goes into a mall. So you can like sit in the stands, not getting rained on, and watch the race from a mall parking lot.
It seems like an amateur type thing more than the pro. I mean, it sounds interesting.
Oh, it is, but it's like I wouldn't say the racing's that good, but like because they're like really heavy and kind of slower cars, they're like boxing out there. They run into each other all the fucking time and keep going. Like they don't fly apart like F1 cars, but they're also not going as fast. And like they have a new they have like a new like setup for qualifying this year where like you qualify and then you get put into like drag races with other racers. And so it's like you qualify and it's like, all right, now you're having a drag race with this guy, and whoever wins the drag race goes to the next like thing to drag race this guy, and then like that's how they do qualifying.
No, I mean, it's kind of sounds interesting. It's kind of a test bed for other stuff. Nice.
Yeah. And I think all the races are only like half an hour long, so you don't have to invest a whole lot into it. But yeah, it's very wacky. I think the thing with most sports is just like kind of getting to know who the people are is really the thing. So there's also the F1 Drive to Survive Netflix series is pretty good for kind of learning who the people are. Although when you get into F1 and you kind of like start superseding the F1 Drive to Survive thing, you realize like, oh, that's just a bunch of nonsensical melodrama edited together, but it's still fun.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a major sports organization with a network. So, I mean, it makes sense that they create content just to be controllable and make a lot of stuff to keep viewership up. So, I mean, it's not like it's everybody else. I mean, fucking watching like the new season of Tacoma FD, and they have their own like fucking sports podcasts and shit. And they're just like, how do we stand out from the crowd? How do we get viewers? And then they're just like, just say the most contrived fucking shit you can think of. And it's like, that guy's a bad father. He's like, he's getting knocked out in the first round or whatever. It's just like the most horrible, stupid shit that anybody would say.
Make sports commentary into nothing but personal attacks on the people.
And so, fucking the guy actually shows up because it's an actual MMA fighter. He's retired now, but he's a volunteer firefighter. And so he's like, oh yeah, you guys are like my brothers. Like, you know, you have a podcast and it sounds cool, so, you know, we care if I do an interview with you and hang out a little bit. And they're like, oh yeah, and they're just trying to delete the whole fucking thing they just recorded and sent on the internet the whole time until the point it's been up long enough that he finds out later and comes back to kick their ass or whatever. And just like exactly how it should be. People should be able to fucking, but it's just it's basic viewership 101. Like, how do you get viewers? You have the opinions no one else has. And it's like, why is F1 so great? It's because they kill kids and spread their blood over the cars before the races. It saturates that virgin blood into the tires, making it so they grip the track even harder.
Well, the thing about F1 is like all the like racing nerds and people who would be into like science of racing, they have all those fans already. There's no base to grow there. But if you can make it purely like drama, that's where you get more fans. When they're like,
oh, I know, like make it drama, make it stuff that a regular person can process or get into. I mean, that's why I think you see a lot of F1 drivers. What's his name? The guy who just dresses like in really fucking like high end fashion and shit.
Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Like
Lewis Hamilton dresses in the craziest stuff. The one who actually looks like a fashion model is Charles Leclerc.
Okay. Because
I
I mean,
also
that
looks like a fashion model too. That doesn't hurt. It's just a skinny, muscular man who's like, yeah, if he wasn't driving a race car, he'd be like, wearing a suit and walking down.
He'd actually probably be making more money.
No, I don't know. Those guys make a lot of money.
No, it's just something where it's like that's how you get to more people now, especially young viewers, which is a huge demographic. Because I mean, we spend a lot of money on streaming and subscription services more than cable packages and stuff like that. So I'm sure F1 has a subscription package of some sort.
You have the login info for it.
Oh yeah, that's right. You just said that. No, I just forget because I fucking sorry. I'll look at it. Sorry about
it's
that.
all right. That's why I was confused by like I eliminated all the barriers for you watching it, and you're still not going to watch it. It's like, okay, you're not interested in it. Never mind.
See, I mean, just you could give me a bunch of free like weird porn I'd never watched. It's like midget porn. It's so weird because why are their cocks big and their bodies are small? It doesn't make any sense. Their cock to body ratio is way off.
I've never watched midget porn. Is that the case?
I don't know. I just came up with that joke last night because we were watching something.
We're watching midget porn.
Yeah, we're watching midget porn.
I made an observation and called it a joke.
Like, I make it not awkward. And just like fucking no.
Anyway, so what I was gonna ask, all right, who do you think's gonna win the Constructors this year?
Well, I guess I have to know.
No, just take a guess. Who do you know in F1? Just take a guess. It doesn't matter.
One of the guys he has mentioned, Lewis Hamilton.
No, Constructors is like the team. So like like McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, Haas, Austin Martin.
I'm just gonna say McLaren because I always like those cars in Forza, and that's what I'm going with. So I'm just gonna throw my hat in the ring with that, even though I know they probably suck as a racing team and a car company.
No, they're good, but they kind of fall apart at the end of a season.
So just like me, I'm good early, but don't count on me late. There you go. Just like now, don't count on me late. Cut away.
But there also could be a reason that they could be, because supposedly they've been working on the car since 2019 on this new car, so they could be at the end of every season they're like cutting their losses and developing for the new car, so they might come out hot. Who knows? I'm gonna say
I do know like tidbits sometimes when I actually do like fully pay attention to what you're saying, because I'm not saying I tune out for every time you guys talk about F1, but I don't like inherently pay attention where I'm like, oh yeah, it is intriguing how that turn on the Istanbul track was very dangerous. Like I just it's to me F1 is definitely a sport. NASCAR is not.
NASCAR's gonna get real weird because they changed in their cars this year.
Oh really?
Yeah, they don't have like. They're meant to be more road cars, not just oval cars. And they're not having like 7 nuts on it like they used to. They're just having the 1 nut like every other racing series does.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, because there's like a whole team that got out of NASCAR purely because like they can't guarantee they're going to win. So they're going to let all the other teams figure it out and then hop back in when they do.
Oh well, that's that's interesting.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
guessing.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just never like NASCAR because like I know there's tracks that aren't just ovals, but at
Yeah.
the same time, it's like it's just a giant billboard race, and I've never been a fan
Yeah.
of that.
I mean, yeah, when you get to the mechanics of it, it's fascinating, but yeah, watching it is kind of it's a slog.
Watch the 600th lap. You've been glued to your seat for the last 8 hours, everybody. Watch as the same person is still in the lead. Oh wait!
What?
Oh shit!
Actually, it's like all different now. It's like after like the like the 100th lap or whatever, they basically like somebody is awarded points and the race kind of just starts all over again. It's weird. Yeah, it's way different now. It's basically they did that to keep like less wrecks from happening, to keep the cost of the sport down. And this happened in 2020, so because of the pandemic.
Well, because I know obviously 2020 changed a lot of
Yeah.
sports leagues as far as operating costs and shit, but at the same time, it's like I guess I don't really pay attention to NASCAR, just like F1, because like I said, it's fun to play in a video game. It's not fun to watch in real life.
Yeah.
So I mean, just like I was playing Farming Simulator 19 today. Fun to play in a video game, probably not so much fun to watch in real life.
I can make money in real life, but I'd rather play this video game. Nathan, what's your guess for the Constructors?
I'd say McLaren because I saw the most detailed analysis of that car.
Okay.
And I like the looks of it. I mean, it's probably going to be Mercedes, but if we're making crazy predictions, I'd say
Yeah.
McLaren.
Well, because I know from what you're talking about before, like Mercedes always seems to be on top right now. But
Yeah,
at the
but
same time,
with these new regulations, like it could be anybody, so that's why it's fun.
plus I don't know who has the most money and knowledge to really throw at a new system.
I mean, technically probably Red Bull because they have $1 billion of energy drink money, but there's a spending cap now, so you can't just spend your way to the top like you used to.
Oh, that intrigues me because I really don't like. That's the main reason I still dislike some sports because they have no salary cap. So it's like I could just fucking buy whatever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still kind of weird. Like it's basically like the most you can spend is $200 million that goes into the car. Now everything around that you can spend whatever you want, but only $200 million can go into the car. So like getting good hotels, like that like gives you a 0.1% performance boost in your people working. Like that's not included.
See, that's why they need like blue collar NASCAR fans as commentators for F1. You know, Jim, $200 million for a car. I paid $35,000 for mine. It runs just.
Yeah, real unironically stupid observations about
All right, who do you think is going to win the drivers' championship?
I mean, Lewis Hamilton's pretty much always on top, isn't he?
Yeah, that's my guess.
I would say him, just because he always seems to win pretty much every race.
I don't know. Lewis Hamilton's with George Russell this year.
Yeah.
That's his side driver. I don't know what might happen. George Russell's a pretty good driver.
Yeah.
And, he's not like, what was the last guy, Botas?
Yeah.
Who's just kind of like,
he's fast.
He's fast. George Russell's good.
So is your guess Russell, Nathan?
I'm going to say Russell because we're going crazy. And also he's the teammate.
Yeah.
Because that'd be high drama, which F1 loves.
I mean, there's a reason why Hamilton wanted Bottas back.
I know.
It's like, oh man, he's fast, but I can beat him. Who do you think is going to be most improved?
Yoshida.
Who?
I like him. The Japanese guy. Is his name Yoshida?
Oh, fuck! What's his name? Why am I suddenly forgetting his name?
Did I say his name wrong? Oh, Sonoda. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yoshida was
Yuki Tsunoda.
Yuki Tsunoda, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could say Mazepin, but
You're gonna have to give me a minute because I'm trying to look up like.
Well, I kind of meant just teams, but yeah, you can say drivers too.
I'm trying to look up like the worst active drivers in F1.
I mean, it's Mazepin.
Yeah, Mazepin is the worst one.
He's a
But
Russian.
I'll pick Esteban Ocon.
Ocon? Okay. I could see it.
I could see him getting a podium if things go weird.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, like with their car, like, because they're the only ones that have their engine, and they're doing something new with their engine, so they could come into the season with a rocket ship.
Yeah,
that nobody else has. I doubt it, but you know.
And that guy usually hangs in. He doesn't usually crash out. So
yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to do some quick research because I don't pay enough attention to names half the time. So
I mean, that's like I think on the cursory glance, I love the names of F1 because they're so crazy. So it's just fun to say their names.
When you get them wrong,
I'm gonna guess Alonso as I'm gonna say he gets a win. So I'm gonna give him as most improved.
Okay.
And I don't know about teams. I think
about
Austin Martin. I think Austin Martin's gonna do some crazy stuff.
how about pick the driver that falls the most from grace, like destroys his life, dies maybe in a fire?
Yeah, well, that's what I heard. What team or driver do you think is gonna fall apart the most?
Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton. Is that
Oh.
his name as his brother? He has a brother. I can't. He might. I think
Oh,
he might be.
does?
Yeah, I think it's
I
Alexander.
just know him as Lewis. I didn't know it was Lewis Hamilton. Let me look him up.
Yeah, he has a brother. I think he has a brother called Alex.
I guess I was just fucking with you. Had to do with the president's name.
Oh, is that also a president? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lewis Hamilton.
Is that what Hamilton is based on?
It's now Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah. He got
I
knighted.
guess I should slow down on the rum.
His brother's name is Nicholas.
Oh, okay. Who do I think is gonna fall apart? I guess if I'm saying Alonso's not falling apart, I guess I'm not gonna say that. Yeah, I'm just gonna have Haas continues to fall apart.
Yeah, I mean that's a safe bet.
But like I don't know that who has the furthest to fall is like Mercedes and Red Bull.
Yeah, who's gonna fall? Probably. I don't know.
Yeah. Actually,
I say Red Bull more than Mercedes because Mercedes is part of the largest car manufacturing conglomerate in the world.
Yeah.
They have so much to bring to the table where Red Bull just gives you wings.
Yeah. But I'm also like, I think Haas, like, I think by the end of the year, like, I don't think they're going to be Haas anymore.
No.
So that's probably the reason I think Haas is going to fall the farthest. I think somebody's going to buy that team from them.
Yeah, they seem to just they just hang on with grim determination.
Well, they just basically they just threw away this last year, and I remember there's some people talking about sports psychology about like a team that like throws away a season for draft picks, and it's like, and they talk about it's like, well, now you have these great people coming in with great talent, but you have the base that you have there as a team that's committed to lose.
Yeah.
You don't have any kind of like culture of winning in your organization.
I know, Detroit Lions. I get it.
Actually, I think Ferrari is going to be very surprising this year. I think.
Yeah, I mean they've had a tough patch for a while, but
yeah,
that's
they
like
got
a winning team.
They got a great driver lineup, and they have some new improvements on the engine before they have the engine freeze. So
yeah, I mean, because they were dominant players like 8 years ago. You know, it's
yeah.
It's always been their thing.
But, all right, I'm gonna stand by. I'm gonna end the call and call you guys back because we're coming up on the time limit.
All right.
Sorry. See ya.
Nope.
just have.
I don't even stop the recording for this. I just edit this out because it's for some reason it's easier to just put one continuous large file in than to seam two together. I don't know why the computer crashes more when I do two, but
Yeah, I just keep the recording live. I have a standby screen that pops up with music, so it's seamless in between.
well, isn't that high tech?
And it's with my own music, so no issues there. Although it's not me playing, I used to play the breaks myself, and now I just have it done for me.
Just automate that.
Yeah.
Farm it out.
There he is.
Kavinsky's new album will be out in March,
Oh, okay.
and he's talking about doing another collaboration with The Weeknd.
Huh.
Sorry, I literally just got the email when I joined because I don't know why I had to wait that long. So, my internet sucks, everyone. If you'd like to donate to make Andrew's internet better, you can give it to P.O. Box. No. I've been getting a lot of...
Go to verhoeneffect.com and subscribe to our listener support. or buy a t-shirt.
Or buy a t-shirt. And we can bring Andrew internet.
Well, if CenturyLink would finally bring fiber optic here, that'd be amazing. They're supposedly working on it for the last 5 years. We'll see how long it takes them to work on it.
I get the 5G WB now on my phone.
What?
Huh.
5G wideband, which is basically
okay.
6G. That they didn't want to call it 6G because they barely got through with 5G. So
Oh, okay.
I haven't noticed the difference. I mean, my phone's so fast, it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't stream movies on it or anything, but I just look things up.
Yeah.
Oh, hobby inventions. Now that we're all back, I have a hobby invention I made. This is my decal solvent and decal applicator, and you
Okay.
see these bottles. Okay, these little bottles are like $7, and they're real easy to knock over and spill the entire contents out on your bench. I've done it once already, so I took a block of wood and drilled into it with a router bit the size of these bottles, and now it won't spill. And I put a sign on there that says "Stop, don't spill." So hopefully that'll remind me. Because see, when the Japanese, like when Gunzi does these little paint pots, now I hand paint with a lot of these. Now you could knock these over and it'd spill paint everywhere, but you'd really have to work because they're short and fat.
Mm-hmm.
But these real tall, skinny bottles like this, yeah, you can easily dip a brush into that and just pull it over. So that's Hobby Corner this week.
Well, I have some more food stuff. I guess that's my hobby.
Okay.
So I was making some mac and cheese because I just wanted to investigate because to me, there's nothing better than Velveeta shells and cheese.
Right.
Spoiler alert, there still isn't.
The mountain hasn't been climbed, huh?
But I did figure out a cool way to make macaroni and cheese, just from the base things. It's from I got it from Binging with Babish, but it's a recipe from Kenji Lopez Alt. He's
Okay.
also a famous chef, but I don't know who they are. But Babish said it's his hero, so. Yeah, so it's interesting because you put 6 ounces of macaroni shells in a pan, and then you fill it up with water until it's like barely covering all the macaroni, and then you just start cooking it, and then like it works out to a point where like the macaroni absorbs some of the water, and then you're just cooking off the rest of the water.
Okay.
And then basically, like, once the water is kind of gone, like, you don't want to get too gone to where you're just burning the macaroni. But
Right.
once it's burned off, then you pour in 6 ounces of evaporated milk. And then you kind of bring that to a boil. Or not boil, but like a simmer.
Yeah.
And then you take it off the heat, and then you dump your cheese in. And here I put in sharp cheddar, and then there's an extra thing to put Dijon mustard and cayenne pepper. So I did all that, and it was totally fine. But it was just fine. And then I decided to make it again because I just have this can of opened evaporated milk. So it's like I'll use the other 6 ounces because it's 6 ounces macaroni, 6 ounces of milk, 6 ounces of cheese. Essentially, what you get down to. So pretty.
6.
The macaroni of the beast.
Okay.
So I was making again. This time I just had was using whatever cheese I had. So I had the rest of the sharp cheddar and then just some Velveeta cheese in the freezer, and I just used the rest of that. So I put that together, and then and then this time I didn't use the Dijon mustard or cayenne pepper, and it tasted like what I thought was way better. It's probably because of the Velveeta cheese, but it was like the sharp cheddar kind of gave it an extra kick to it. So it was pretty good, but still not better than Velveeta shells and cheese. So, and even though I was using Velveeta cheese, I think there's something to like the coagulated box. Like, oh, there's something to like the liquid form that's just better. I don't know why, or if you can get that, or if yeah.
Oh yeah, you can buy that in packages at food service places.
Oh, okay.
Big foil pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get those, I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
I think they're even gusseted on the bottom so they stand.
And then the other thing I made is I made slaw burgers.
Okay.
Which is from North Carolina, and it's a hamburger with chili, coleslaw, and then a smash smashed cheeseburger on top, and that's the burger.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Makes me hungry.
I would say it was like I didn't eat it. I was like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. It's just like chili's good, coleslaw's good, the burger's good. It's just all good. But it didn't blow me away, but it was still good. I made it twice. The chili is it's mostly just like meat and tomatoes. Like there's no beans in it.
Oh, okay.
But it's like you mash it up and you cook it, and then you kind of like put all the beef into a corner, and you kind of like let all the liquid and fat, and then you just like spoon out all the liquid and fat and stuff, and then you're adding like diced tomatoes, tomato paste, Worcester sauce, brown sugar, cumin. It all works out, and it's kind of a very sweet chili, and it spreads very easily on the bun. You toast the bun so it's better to hold all that stuff.
Okay.
A mistake I made with toasting buns is like when you watch them toast buns in these videos, it's like they just throw it on the grill, they butter it, throw it on the grill where they were cooking the hamburger. But that's not what they're doing. So they clear all the shit where they where they cook the hamburger, they clear all that shit all the way so it's a fresh grill again. So So yeah, then it'll just make your buns soggy and brown and whatever.
Up a bunch of beef fat and stuff.
Yeah. So it doesn't work out the way you want. So yeah, move that shit out the way or get a separate thing. Or literally what I did sometimes, I just literally put it in the toaster.
Yeah.
It'll toast it's better to like toast it like on the pan because it's going to get it exactly where you want it. But anyways, that's just so it holds condiments better. Yeah. And then you layer it with the chili. I made coleslaw. I accidentally made my own version of it so like when you dice up a cabbage and you put it in the food processor and it just has like the spinning blade on it. So because of how the cabbage work, it kind of cuts it up into like kind of strips.
Okay.
Not with carrots. If you just use that slicer, it's just going to slice circles off the carrots. You're supposed to use like the kind of the cheese grater in the process, and you kind of put it in sideways, and that's how you get like the long strips of carrots for your coleslaw. I did not know that. So
you had spiral carrot slaw.
Well, not spiral. It's just like little circles, like slices off the carrots. And then so I took out those things and I kind of chopped them until now they're like parallelograms of carrots. It actually made it better to plate it on top of it because like all the stuff was flat in the coleslaw. So it worked all right. Although they had me like make way too much coleslaw. Like I had like 2 giant things of coleslaw and it's like here's like the material and then here's like half of it with like the mayonnaise and all the stuff in it, And then later on, I was like, as I was going through it, like throughout the day, like the more you like let it sit in the refrigerator, there's more. It's like it kind of separates the vegetables from like the oil base or whatever, and then you can just like throw more of the coleslaw in and it'll like spruce it back up.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it has one cabbage head and 6 carrots makes like a basketball of coleslaw. Wow. Yeah. And I was like, I'm just doing what he said, but like for a hamburger recipe where it's only a part of the recipe, way too much coleslaw.
Yeah, and serve it with a bowl of coleslaw on the side. And coleslaw to garnish, and extra coleslaw,
Yeah.
and coleslaw at midnight.
Yeah, so that was the slaw burgers. Good, but it's, I don't know, it's probably the most complicated burger in the book, maybe. I'm not sure, but it took a while because it's like,
Yeah, you're making a chili base and
Yeah.
slaw and all that. Yeah, that's a lot. Oh, Andrew, I wanted to thank you for that book recommendation.
Okay.
The Alien into Charybdis. It was actually a free
Oh.
with my Audible subscription audiobook.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is kind of an interesting universe. Remember how we were talking about how in that book, because I hadn't dipped into the Alien books in a long time, and they had like nationalism and different states and stuff. Well, that threw me into a whole spiral about the new Alien RPG, or the one that's been out for a while.
Yeah.
And
I got the core book for that.
okay, because I'm going to buy the core book when I get some extra money just to read, because the writing's I heard the writing's wonderful. I watched a 2-hour interview with the guy that wrote it, and he's now in charge of the Disney Fox Alien canon, and he's deciding like what's legitimate canon and what's not. And basically, everything from Aliens 1, 2, 3 is canon, and then some of the stuff from like not the stuff from the Colonial Marines video games, because that gets a little, I don't know, I never played them, but he said that, some of that's not going to apply. But yeah, so basically and everything from Alien Isolation, and so they're creating this whole Alien universe, and so now I'm going to buy the RPG books just to read, and because the artwork's cool.
Well, we were supposed to be, or this is 2 years ago now, almost 2 years ago now when that book came out.
Okay.
Because we bought the starter set. I have the alien miniatures from the game, and we were going to do all this stuff. We literally bought a bunch of other miniatures to like serve as Weyland-Yutani guys, or just basically aliens and other stuff. Because a group of us really wanted to do it as an RPG. Because I hadn't actually played one. I played D&D one time and found it kind of entertaining, but I'm not like a huge fantasy setting type of person. So I was like, oh, okay, like I really actually like the Expanse stuff I read when you were trying to get into that, and obviously I bought stuff for that never really got off the ground either. But at the same time, I was like, okay, cool, sci-fi, we love aliens. This would be fucking awesome to like dig into this, and I really liked what I read for the RPG book, and it died out thanks to COVID because the main guy leading it was somebody that had health problems and stuff, and he couldn't really do it in person. They talked about doing it on Discord, but I don't think it ever got off the ground. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that he's going to be the canon supporter. I actually just started reading a book where it has Ellen Ripley being rescued by somebody else first before she gets rescued by Weyland-Yutani and then goes to LV-426. Because her cryopod or escape pod comes up on a ship falling from orbit on LV-148, a mining planet. And then she's sucked into that catastrophe or whatever. So I wonder how because it says news story on the front of the book and all that stuff. Because I just read, because you were talking about Charybdis and Blue, the alien life form, and that I actually read the book preceding that where she's, she's a researcher for Weyland-Yutani in a deep substation, and the auditor comes by and everything goes to hell and shit. So that I've been reading a lot of alien books. I still have another 5 to go through that I've purchased, and so far there's only been a couple ones that I didn't really like. One of them being Isolation was really poorly written.
Oh, the novelization of the game, you mean?
Yeah, the novelization of the game. Yeah,
Okay.
It's only like 300 pages, and it struggles.
So we're moving back and forth trying to avoid the worker Joe, or what are they called? Working Joes.
Yeah, Working Joes. Yeah.
That game's great, but that's way too long. And
okay.
Yeah.
I guess one of the last video games I played.
Yeah.
Okay, because the books or the book feels way too short. Like she's on the station for like 5 minutes, and then and then is thrust back out in space. So I didn't like the book for that reason because there wasn't like a lot of tension. Like there was some cool scenes that probably were from the video game, but like there wasn't any like real like, oh, I feel like she might die at any moment. No, that was never present in that book. Especially since like half the book for 300 pages is her recollecting what her mother did and stuff like that, or what she went through, and the other half is coming back to the station.
I don't even think you do that in the video game. I think you just see the video of Ripley, or what's Ellen is the main one, right? And what's this Amanda Ripley?
Yeah, Amanda Ripley, and then
yeah,
she does mention. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you just listen to like it's either a video thing or an audio message of Ellen Ripley, and that's kind of all the kind of like the remembrance of her mother in the video game.
Oh, really? Because in the book, like, it talks about Ellen Ripley so many times. It's like, oh, she stopped a terrorist attack on the moon by herself. She stopped a mutiny on a ship with a couple other people and saved a bunch of people's lives from nuclear.
I mean, the point of the video game is you're looking for your mother and you don't find her, and you just end up crossing paths with the alien.
The book does the same thing too, but it added so much to like Ellen Ripley's shit. It's like, fuck, the alien really fucked with the wrong person on that on that one. It couldn't have picked a worse target. You should have picked a different ship. I don't know. But no, at the same time, like now, so I'm kind of more interested I didn't know going into the one I'm reading that she was going to be in that book, because they kind of like so far they've kind of hinted that she's been asleep a really long time, and she's touching on what her promise to her daughter to be back for her 11th birthday, and she's like, I really wanted to be back or whatever, and they're just kind of like looking down at the floor like, so I don't know.
That's always a ridiculous premise. Like, I promised to be there for her birthday, and now it's like end an entire world trying to make it happen.
I love you, damn it! I don't care who has to die. Yeah, but with that and with that Aliens TV show coming out at some point in 2023 or whatever, which is done by the guy from Fargo, it's like, oh, okay, that should be good. So yeah, good recommend. It's opened up a whole new world of expensive entertainment.
Oh, sorry. I mean,
no, that's fine.
I mean, at the same time, like the kind of interesting one I read was Prototype, because it's an alien that bonds with a flesh-eating virus.
Okay.
So not only is it an alien, but it also has a flesh-eating bacteria on it. So if you shoot it or get close to it, it just breathes on you or touches you, and all your flesh melts away.
That's nice.
They had some stuff like that in the Prometheus ones.
Yeah, and there's a lot of more talk about the Prometheus kind of stuff in Charybdis and Cold Forge, which is the first book with blue in it. They don't really know what it is, because they just know that what they call the Snatchers, which are the aliens, and the Facehuggers, because they only get 3 terminology things. They get the egg, the Facehugger, and the Xenomorphs. That's the only thing they're known by when they.
Okay, are they officially Xenomorphs again?
I don't know. It's like every book has a different name for them.
Okay.
Like some call them demons, some call them fucking Snatchers, other ones call them what was it?
In Charybdis, the egg implanters, they're like, yeah, watch out for the face fuckers. That was I was like, oh, okay, that's finally somebody said it. Because I always thought of them as that.
Because I remember there was like a few years ago, there was like some controversy where like someone said that like Xenomorph wasn't canon. It's just like shows up in technical manuals and video games, and it's not like official or something.
Yeah, I mean, what Xenomorph means is just alien life form. That's that's actually a real term. I mean, it just means I forget how that works, because it traces back to Latin. It's like morphology. Xeno means alien, and morphology means life form, or something like that. So yeah, it's not a bad term. But yeah, good recommend. I haven't thought about aliens in a long time.
I read so many of the books from the 90s and 80s when I was a kid, and I was like, God, those had to have went somewhere, right? Because Aliens, like, as a film franchise, didn't go anywhere after the fucking third one. I mean, they had movies, but then nothing that was like.
I don't.
great.
I mean, there's things about Resurrection I like, but it's more of a spoof on itself.
No, I mean there's
Resurrection is like, yeah, it's like a bunch of French people made an alien movie, and you can tell it's like, oh, this is wildly imaginative and fun, but
in a Joss Whedon script.
yeah,
I mean, the only thing that really came out of like anything alien was like the Predator stuff kind of grew a little bit of leg.
now that is not canon. I heard they
Oh,
said
yeah.
all the AVP stuff is in its. He said as a separate universe that exists unto its own, but they're not going to make that a part of it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's not how they usually spread anyway, so that's not necessary. But I guess it's interesting if they didn't say it was part of the same universe because that's.
Like I said, all the stuff that was been around from Prometheus on is because the engineers are not gone. Not, but no one's saying where it's going to go, but they're still around. They've been around a long time. And then it's just interesting they have political factionism. I like that. Some of it's a little odd. Like, where does United Americas and Three World Empires separate? It's like, because they all seem like the same thing. But then you've got like the Union of Progressive Peoples, which are just space commies. It's all the, and it's basically a modern political thing kind of redressed in this universe. So, but it's interesting.
Well, if you go backwards in the timeline a little bit and read Cold Forge, you get to see what Norman Bates thinks of aliens.
Oh, okay.
Or whatever. I mean, it's basically Christian Bale fucking like going there as an auditor to like a weapons facility where they're testing 3 things, and he's there to cut the fat and get because his whole mission is to make Weyland Yutani's stock go up like a 1/10 of a percentage point, and then he'll make so much money he won't have to worry about working again ever or whatever. And it's like, wow, that's really great. That's how much like our world means to everybody at that point. It's just going up a 1/10 of a percentage point.
We destroyed Earth, but are my profits going up?
So I mean, like he's very much painted as it's very much Norman Bates. Not that anybody else is really a good person on that station either, but at the same time, it's very interesting just because of what he devolves into, and it was because that's actually the same writer as Charybdis. So that's the first book I've read. It's actually the same writer. Every other book I've read so far, everyone has a different writer, and probably the only other book that I've liked as much as Charybdis so far is Cold Forge, but also Phalanx, the one where everybody's fighting with spears and hoplite shields and shit like that. Just because it was interesting to see a low-tech approach to fighting aliens. And also just like, hey, what if a bunch of people crash landed and then spent hundreds of years being hunted by these things, forgot how they got there, formed a civilization, and then got reinfested by aliens again, and then had to fight them again in a volcano. It's kind of it's a weird setting, but it works. And it's also, I mean, female protagonist led, not that means anything, but she was also a good female protagonist because it wasn't just like, oh, everything comes easy for her and she just fucking gets everything handed to her. Because I mean, I've had my fill of those type of heroes regardless of sex or orientation. But yeah. Talking to you, Ray.
Yeah.
Did everybody watch the season finale of Boba Fett?
Yes.
Yeah.
How was everybody's feelings about that show?
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it as much as I like The Mandalorian, but I like it.
Yeah, it's just kind of weirder. There's things I like about it. I don't like all the hate I hear about it is just like nonsense. Like they don't like. It seems like people don't like the mods because they're like, yeah, their bikes look stupid, but it's like you can fix that next season. They blew up their bikes. I really like the one Wookiee who's just like the evil Chewbacca. And I like the way his blasters sound is really cool. And I thought it was cool that they brought Cad Bane back. Although I thought they could have done more with him. They just kind of like killed him off. But although it's like that guy's been killed off bunches of times, so he can always be alive again.
Yeah.
Supposedly he's like 78 in that timeline or whatever. Because I guess his species is supposed to have a similar lifespan to humans.
Yeah, I mean that guy would be about the same age as like Vader essentially.
Yeah.
Also, I forgot like him and Boba Fett had like a backstory. It's like, oh yeah, like they worked together because there's this whole thing in the Clone Wars where Boba Fett, when he's a kid, is like infiltrating like the other clone kids as they're being trained for war. And he's like trying to kill Mace Windu, and he ends up killing like a ton of clones, like just trying to get to Mace Windu, and doesn't even succeed. And at that point he's working with Cad Bane, so I figured like I forgot that Cad Bane's like kind of like a weird father figure for him at some point, but I haven't seen the rest of Clone Wars yet, so I don't know if they interact again or if that's the only one.
Yeah, I mean, the only nitpick I had about the show, because I liked most of it, I like exploring like what happened to Boba Fett after the barge and kind of like how he kind of got to be where he was at. I know some people thought he took too long doing that, but I was fine with where that went. Fennec Shan was fine. I don't think she really had any character development, but
no, she just kind of killed people in cool ways.
Yeah.
And they killed her in The Mandalorian, so and brought her back to life. So
yeah, and then I mean, yes, there was 2 whole episodes where he wasn't really in it at all, but that's fine too. I think they were trying to set up
the side Mandalorian episodes.
Yeah, just 2 Mandalorian episodes in the middle of a Boba Fett show. It kind of speaks to how popular the other Mandalorian is, but also, I mean, I could see where they're going with, like, they got the Ahsoka show coming out, they got Obi-Wan coming out here in a couple months, and they also have a couple other shows either in development or done filming that they haven't revealed yet as far as, like, premiere dates. So I can see where they're trying to do some legwork before that comes out to try and, maybe not have as much
I think
set up, I guess, in the beginning.
I think they'll also have more like a second season of Bad Batch. I think that's also in the works.
Yeah, I thought it was, or I guess I would assume it was anyway. I guess I didn't actually check to see if it was actually approved. But I mean, other than that, like,
and then like that,
really
the sting at the end is that Cobb Vanth in the Bacta tank?
Yeah,
that's the Marshal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know.
I have that actor back because he's pretty well known.
Yeah, Timothy Olyphant. Yeah, I didn't know like what's going on there. I'm not really sure. Like, is he gonna be a bad guy? Is he gonna work again? Is that gonna connect to Obi-Wan somehow?
Well, because I'm kind of interested to see maybe he'll be in Mando or something like that, the 3rd season for that show. Yeah. Something that comes out before the 2nd season of Boba Fett. I mean, the only thing I didn't like about Boba Fett was the season finale. So I really thought they could have either made that way more impactful or did something with it.
Yeah, it was just kind of a big fight. That's kind of all.
It was a big fight, but it was a big fight that wasn't. Didn't seem like a fight that was as one-sided as they made it appear to be.
Well, I don't know. It's like okay, these walking turrets have shields. Keep shooting the shields. Well, clearly it's not penetrating the shields. What's your next idea? Shoot the shields faster.
Well, not so much that, but like the walkers, like they're supposed to be like the next step up. Like, oh no, we're doomed, and we really have no choice but to run and hide. Part of the fight. But then they literally can't hit a goddamn thing. Like a stucco wall stops all of their shots for like the rest of the fight. And just like something, they look like they're basically ATST walker type weapons where it's just like burn through small things and vehicles. No problem. So it's just like they didn't hit a goddamn thing. They seem to be taken down somewhat easily. And they just didn't present that much of a threat. And it didn't really make it.
Well, I mean, the only thing that took him down was the Rancor.
No, I know, but I'm just saying it's like nobody incurred any losses fighting either enemy that much.
Yeah, nobody major died during the conflict.
I mean,
they beat the shit out of the Wookiee, but he seemed to be fine.
Yeah, he seemed to be completely fine after just resting for a little while. He was shot in the leg and a bunch of other things. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was worried for their bit. I was like, oh, no, don't kill the Wookiee. He's cool.
When he gets to the little convoy truck the villagers pull up in, he's got like gashes on his face and like all these open cuts and like wounds and shit, and then cut to him later and he looks fine.
I mean,
it's like
they did kill. Who's the chick from Flashdance? Is it something Beale?
Talking about the remake, right?
No, the original one.
Oh, the original one.
I'm glad Amy Sedaris didn't die.
Jennifer Beals. Yeah, they killed off Jennifer Beals.
Oh.
She's the one that ran like the casino or whatever that got blown up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was the Twi'lek. She played the Twi'lek there.
But I'm just talking about like in the firefight or whatever, like
yeah.
Obviously like,
well, I'm trying to think like the whole season the only people that like kind of die is her and and presumably all of the Tusken Raiders.
all the Tusken Raiders, the 2 Gamorreans die.
Oh yeah, that was sad.
Yeah, that was probably the only impactful like death in that episode, as far as like, you know, like, hey, we know these characters and we've been with them, and I mean, I get it. You're not gonna kill like Timothy Olyphant's character for good. You're not gonna kill Boba Fett or Fennec Shand, but at the same time, you could have killed a couple of the bikers or, you know, somebody else that was like slightly impactful or didn't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like all the people that hate the mods wanted all the mods to die.
I mean, they could have when they were ambushed, but instead, like 2.
Well, yeah, there's that weird thing where there's that weird to do where it's like we have some strategy. Like I'm gonna need a rifle, and she hands off her small pistol to that guy, and then they just kind of both stand on a roof and just kind of shoot some people. It's not really a big play.
Yeah, I kind of expected more from that, to be honest. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know what the plan actually was.
Yeah,
I was like, they're going up there with that rifle that guy's been firing the whole time that hasn't been doing jack shit, and then another rifle that hasn't been doing jack shit. It's like I thought their plan was like walk on top with the shield or something and shoot it from the top or
yeah.
Like, I mean, because the whole thing about shields is you can just move them around. You don't have to put them everywhere. You can put them where you're just getting shot at to make them stronger. So I thought maybe their plan was to like really fire fast at the front shields or something. Get him to really concentrate fire and then open up from the back or something. I don't fucking know. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's I'd say that's a major flaw with the last episode. Is just kind of a lot of stuff happening and nothing really impactful. I mean, they did kick out the Syndicate, and that's the big thing. So.
Well, I think the Rancor did more damage to the town than the Pike Syndicate did.
Look, we saved the town. Oh, fuck.
But I mean,
I thought when Boba Fett left the scene, he was going to come back with like, well, Slave One will knock the shields down on those robots.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh no, that'd just be quick. Now we gotta ride the Rancor because it's cool, and I've never seen those things move like that either. So I was kind of.
To be honest, I kind of forgot about it because like the sequence where he's like with the trainer and he's talking about riding the Rancor into battle, I was like, oh yeah, they're definitely going to use this before the end of the season. And then I kind of totally forgot about it. But I also thought that was a double cross because the actor playing the trainer kind of like winks at the Rancor before the scene's over. And I'm like, what the fuck is that about? That seems like a fucking, like he's going to fuck you over and feed you to the Rancor type of thing. Not like a, hey buddy, we got a cool master or whatever. So, I mean, I like the fact that Rancor is in it. I just expected, like, you'd, like...
Yeah, it suddenly became King Kong for a moment there. It's like, oh no, it's out of control, and, like, we're misunderstanding it, and we're gonna kill it for no reason.
I guess I expected...
But then Grogu comes in and saves the day, so he sleeps next to the Rancor, so that's fun.
I guess I expected, like, Grogu and R2-D2 to blast by in the X-Wing and just blow the shit out of the fucking or something. Like, that's what I expected to happen. But yeah, I mean, otherwise the season finale was fine. Like I kind of thought they would leave the crime bosses that betrayed him alive till, you know, next season and just have him.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we can speculate. Like, what's the next villain for Boba Fett gonna be?
Well, now that the Syndicate's out of the way, the Hutts could come back.
Oh yeah, I guess it's right there for the
Or it could be inflation. His next enemy could be economic collapse.
So what if like the next season of Book of Boba Fett is just like Keynesian economics? It's like just a bunch of guys.
The drugs bought people here, and the people brought money. Now we don't have drugs or people or money.
You thought George Lucas' Senate hearing was boring. You're gonna really hate Boba Fett talking to economists for 8
Boba
episodes.
Fett's Book of Tort Reform.
The real trick here, guys, is quantitative easing.
The next person that tells me trickle-down economics work gets shot in the fucking head. Well, I mean, because you have, what's his name? Like, I think it was the first episode, wasn't it? Or the second episode. The guy that kind of introduces them to the mods because he was scalping people on water and shit. Like, he was gouging people on water. Like, maybe he's the villain for season 2. It really is like he's the counterinsurgent that's leading his Boba Fett.
That's like a comedic actor. Why I forget? Oh shit! Why did I forget that guy is?
The guy's Red Stapler.
Oh yeah, it's him. Yeah.
Also on King of the Hill and some other stuff. But I can't remember his fucking name.
Yeah, Boba Fett versus the landlords. Boba Fett just becomes a total like alt communism show for just no reason. Just gets really strange.
I mean, that's my prediction for Boba Fett season 2. Either you got tort reform or you got the communist revolution. It's like, we're switch to a barter economy, guys. That's why it doesn't matter.
I think if we give them season 2, they might like better pick a lane of like what they're gonna do, because like, you know, like in like that secret ending in Mandalorian season 2 or is it 3 or where he just like kills the guy and takes over the throne. And then in the actual series, he just kind of like, I'm bringing peace and honor to the warlords of Tatooine.
Yeah.
Well,
Boba Fett and his dad were essentially very evil people that just killed people for money, and now they're, you know, he's had this redemptive arc. But it's like, the next season will probably be a struggle with him, like not to go back to the old ways, or just deciding like, maybe this isn't the life for me, and leaving her in charge and going back to whatever he was doing. Because I like how he's amazed when the Mandalorian's just going to stay and fight with him, like they're discussing options. It's like, well, we can surrender or die, and Mandalorian's like, well, I'm with you no matter what, and he's like, why not just leave? He goes, well, that's not my code. And he just looks at him like, that's stupid. You know, so it still has that mercenary mentality. It's like, you don't have to stay here and die with me. This is my fight, not yours. And so it's interesting.
Well, I mean, I hope they don't like, walk back what they've tried to accomplish so far in the first season.
It's worked.
I could see them doing stuff with clones. That would be kind of interesting. Because the last thing I know about the clones, like I think it's in Rebels, where it's like the aging on the clones gets weird and they start aging too fast, and so now they're just like all old, even though they're like technically like 10 years old, but they're like 50-year-old bodies.
Well, I know that the actor that plays Boba Fett said he was open to playing, since he's the template for every clone and Jango Fett, open to playing all those roles or more. So I don't know. Maybe they will do something with that.
I mean, if he's a good enough actor where he can play like different versions of himself, that'd be kind of interesting, or at least an episode, just one episode.
But I mean, I'm looking forward to more Disney properties, especially the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. What the hell they're going to do with that? It's on the same planet.
I mean, is it? Are you going to do another show on Tatooine?
I think they are, because like he goes there immediately after the ending of the Clone Wars, I mean.
Yeah, but you can have him bounce around.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's probably better that he bounce around, but Tatooine seems like they're really trying to develop more about that planet, because it's the.
Maybe because it's just really cheap to shoot in the desert.
That too. And they already have sets for everything else, so why build more sets? Just reuse sets. So, I mean, I guess I don't know what they're doing. I mean, it could all be on Tatooine, but since it's earlier than all these other things, it could be completely different. And because the Hutts are still there, and like he's, probably got a bunch of shit to deal with that way. So, I don't know.
That ring planet was cool.
Yeah,
that was cool.
It's like
When I first came up to it, I was waiting to hear like the Halo music. Yeah.
Oh man, have you guys
They
seen?
can't.
Have you seen the Halo trailer?
Yeah.
Oh, the TV show one.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
It's pretty. I mean, like the stuff looks like really good cosplay, like all the stuff in it, but like everything else, it's like seems very amateur and weird.
Yeah,
And-
the kind of story they're trying to tell, it doesn't seem to like. It just seems like a bunch of people expositing things in the middle of a battle, and it's like, okay, what's this? Which is all Halo is. I mean, for its cool factor, there's not like a greater depth there.
No,
it's just this one. I mean, the horrible story of the Spartan series and how they were made, like that would be cool to tell.
Yeah, and there seems to be because that
tormented him.
Yeah, because they have that Bokeem. Yeah, but yeah, that Bokeem Woodbine, like he's kind of being contemplated. He's like a Spartan. He's like, it's like, you know what they did. He's like, I don't know if we can ever forgive them for what they did to us. Something like, it's just something like that. It's like, okay, yeah, that's the one contemplative thing they have for these characters. And then they just do the really dumb thing that's been happening for way too long, especially in video game trailers, where you have like the kind of like breathy slow cover, and they do a breathy slow cover of "In the Air of the Night." And it's just super ridiculous and overly dramatic. They also have, I think they had the voice actor of Cortana. I think they just literally have her playing Cortana, but so they just use her, but then they kind of put like CGI on top of her and it just looks weird. And I know people are mad about that because they want like young, sexy Cortana, not like a 50-year-old voice actor.
People are so nice.
Yeah.
Her voice can't sound that fucking different. Jesus.
No, our voice sounds exactly the same, but it's like literally her as Cortana.
Oh, well, then, okay. I don't see why people should be pissed about that or whatever.
Well, that's just internet trolls that want to fuck everything. So
yeah, everything's got to be gross and vile.
Well, I guess to me, if it was her voice but somebody else's, likeness or whatever, it'd be fucking weird. So I don't get why you gotta whatever. I mean, it's not like she's some 90-year-old hag with like her tits down to her feet or whatever. Even then, it'd still be like, well, sounds like Cortana. Better fuck her.
I think that guy they have cast as Master Chief is kind of interesting because he's a comedic actor, but he is really tall. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting Mandalorian role for him.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Master Chief ever takes his helmet off or anyone ever sees
No.
it.
No.
I know. It's only been in like he's taken it off in like a secret ending of one of them. Actually, he takes it out in the first one. You never see his face. He takes it off in the fourth one, and you just kind of see cheekbones, but you don't really see his face. So that's always thing they always say about like what makes the Master Chief works is because you don't see his face, so everybody can imagine themselves as the Master Chief. So that
yeah, that's just classic myth making.
Although watching a trailer kind of unlocked like an idea I've been working on. Just not really working on, just kind of thinking about. Just call it POS. Just piece of shit. and like originally I had it kind of like in a superhero thing where like they just give this loser superhero powers, almost like Captain America. And then some point they find he thinks he's all special because he's narcissistic, and like now he's all badass and stuff. And he learns like the only reason they gave it to him is because they knew nobody would miss him if the process killed him.
Yeah.
So now he's just depressingly saving the world.
I'm special. No, you were just the lowest risk factor.
But now I've switched it to where it's not a superhero thing. It's where it's like it's a alternate universe where people are extremely like productive, and like they really like follow like their dreams and stuff, but like they don't know how to like relax or like not care about like failures, and so like everyone's like dying. Like the average age they live to is like 35 because everyone's just dying from stress and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And so they figure out they get the loser guy to basically like teach him how to like basically chill out and accept failure. And so I was like, the song from the Halo trailer, like the version of Air of the Night, I just imagine it's like him like teaching someone how to be a piece of shit, and he's like, let's go save the world, and like they walk slow motion like, I can hear it, I've been waiting for this moment, oh my, and so they just lay on the couch and play video games.
That's kind of like what was that one, that weird one that Will Smith did, where he was the superhero but he was also like an alcoholic.
Hancock.
Yeah. That wasn't a great movie. It was an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Never quite really lived up to its potential.
Well, it was ultimately weird because it was like incest with that.
Yeah. There was a lot of
like, wait, what? They're brother and sister? It's like, what?
Yeah, that was a lot of the concepts they should have developed for that they didn't.
I can't remember if that's based on something or if it's like there's something about the original screenplay that's like really interesting that they fucked up when they made it, because I think it was originally supposed to be R-rated or something, and then
it was a graphic novel, but
okay,
I could be wrong.
I hear like whatever it's based on or the original screenplay is better than what was actually made. So
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's what they say about everything that sucks. So this sucked. The original was better.
So we watched a movie this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is another good one. Good pick. Incident at Oglala, or I'm saying that right?
I think it's
Yeah,
oglala.
Yeah, but Collins.
You kind of do the lala. You do lala,
Yeah.
and then it's like it's either og or oog or something. Oglala. I looked up a pronunciation guide, but it's literally like a computerized voice reading it, and you never know if that's correct. It's something with the.
To make a computer say Cthulhu, it gets really weird. Call it Cthulhu, it gets really weird.
Because it's something with I think the Sioux language or what it means or something. So, anyways,
yeah, this was one of those things like I'd never heard about. I knew vaguely, roughly what the American Indian movement was, but the only thing I knew about them was that they captured Alcatraz in the 70s as like a protest thing, like pay attention to us, our lives suck on those reservations. But I did not know this story at all. I'd never heard of this story until I saw this. So it was very interesting. It gave a lot more depth to some of the Native American conflict that was going on then. I know reservations are very sad places. I do know that.
Some of them.
Some of them. I mean, yeah, but this was before casinos, so they were all pretty sad. And I knew that like they had this movement, and I knew that there was a lot of run-ins with the federal government, but I did not know like, oh, they just basically had a show trial and screwed this guy. And I also didn't know the tribe was fighting amongst itself.
Yeah.
Either. That was like, oh, I did not know. I always thought it was the Native Americans versus the government, which is a conflict that made sense to me because of the history of this country and some things that happened with the Native Americans, but I didn't know they had like internecine warfare either, where they were just like killing each other. Like, what'd they say? There was more violence, like in South Dakota. There was
so there's 10,000 Indians and then like 700,000 people, and then like there was a higher percentage murder rate in those 10,000 people than
not just percentage,
or no, actual people. Yeah,
actual murder. I was like, that's astounding. So.
And the only thing I vaguely know is like I know there's a movie made about this called Thunderheart, and it's made by the same guy that did the documentary as the same guy who directed the movie. Yeah, with Val Kilmer. Although I remember that movie kind of being more about the FBI perspective, which probably seems less interesting. But I haven't seen it in a long time. I remember being okay, but
this guy stole a pair of boots. Let's go get it.
Yeah, because this documentary is from like 1992.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it was made because they ended up releasing the Thunderheart movie and this documentary in the same year, so I don't know when either was made.
Oh,
because apparently he was researching stuff for the movie, and then he made this documentary based on his research.
Oh, okay.
Also, the guy made it. He makes a famous documentary series called. Do you ever heard the 7-Up series?
No.
So like they, whenever they started it, they followed these 7-year-olds from Britain. And they just kind of like hey, what's going on with your life? And then every 7 years they come back to the same people and see what's going on with their life. So they're up to 63 up now. So
Oh wow, okay. Huh. Michael Apted. Oh, he died last year.
Oh, he did? Oh, okay.
He's from Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire, England. That's a lot to spell.
And also this documentary is narrated by Robert Redford, who also
Yeah.
produced it. So
I noticed that. It's like, oh, that's Robert Redford.
but yeah, it starts off it's about like 2 FBI agents were murdered at an Indian reservation, and they're like, why? What happened? And so they're interviewing the guys that like shot them. It's like, huh, they're not in jail? That's interesting.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, these guys aren't in prison. But then you find out somebody shot those FBI agents, but it's never like made clear. It's like it seemed like they targeted some people, and then
yeah, it's like these FBI agents like pull up in unmarked vehicles in a huff, and they start a shootout with somebody, and then just like all these Indians like kind of like gather together and like just return fire.
yeah.
And like, but like the FBI agents just have like their revolvers, but like they're going to the trunks for like their AR-15s or something, but they never get there. Not exactly sure.
Yeah.
And then there's like, and this also has like, and this is kind of like somewhat of a boiling point, but there's even stuff before this with there's the Wounded Knee incident, which I can't remember what's that about.
So the Wounded Knee site was taken over by AIM as well to draw awareness to not only that massacre, but just like the Alcatraz takeover, to talk about life on a reservation and what modern day Indians really had to look forward to. Because they also took over AIM, American Indian Bureau headquarters at one point too during the Nixon administration. So basically, it's just the government sent a bunch of APCs and tanks and heavily armed people.
Well, just APCs.
But
and
at the same
they're
time,
not armed, but they just look intimidating.
So I mean, like the American Indian Bureau sent their police, the FBI sent agents, the National Guard and local sheriffs also sent people. So they just surrounded. I think it was a couple hundred people there, and they shot and killed 2 Indians. And didn't say that they weren't armed, but I don't think they're as armed as APCs warranted.
No.
Or whatever. But also and they both kind of just called a truce, and because they both realized it probably looked bad. So they got what they wanted, which was attention, and then the federal government got what they wanted, which is a bunch of people get them to try and go to jail and break up the AIM leadership, which didn't work anyway. Like they said, 90% of the charges that were filed were dropped or found not guilty at trial. They brought against organizations or organizing that event and others. That was 4 years prior to the I'm gonna just defer to Colin. Every time I need to say oglala, he's gonna say it. Oglala incident.
Say og and then lala.
Oglala.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation seems to be made up of a couple different villages. And
what they say the divide is, there's kind of like these traditionalists, Native Americans, and then there's the people that are kind of trying to, I'm not sure if progressive is the word, they're be contemporary or something, and that's where there's a big split. And this one guy, basically they make him sound like he cons his way to getting government money so he can basically fund brutes. He basically just has a gang of people going around killing people that won't conform. And it's government funded. That's where all the high murder rates coming from, is this internal conflict. And then that sets up a thing where you have FBI agents coming in and shooting up the place. It's like, oh yeah, these people are primed to return fire because it's basically an internal war zone.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go in and shoot at the guys that are already armed, basically at an outdoor encampment. And yeah, we're gonna fire like revolvers at them, and they're gonna respond with like AR-15s and heavy caliber hunting rifles. But see, the FBI agents are killed, so nobody knows what their side of it was.
Yeah.
There could have been other stuff because there was a truck they were chasing. You later find out it's like, oh yeah, it was full of dynamite, and those guys killed the FBI agents. Like they fired directly at them, but nobody.
But the only thing listed is that they're chasing guy down because he's purported to have stolen boots or something.
Yeah, that's what it starts out as. But the guys, I don't know. The guys they were chasing were driving like a red Jeep pickup, and it had dynamite in it. Like you later found this out. This didn't happen. This came out years later. It's like the guys who actually killed those FBI agents, all these tribal people know who they are, but they won't say anything. Because the guy they have in prison, like, he did not kill those guys. These two guys did. And it turns out they had reason to, because they were bringing dynamite, which is illegal to have because it was for terrorist stuff. And they were the ones that killed the FBI agent, but no one's going to talk because why would you go to the government that just screwed you over forever? They're like, oh, yeah, we're going to tell you who did it now.
Also, like, everybody that's kind of like on the side of the prosecution in this entire thing seems sketchy and weird.
Yeah, they're just like classic government FBI guys. It's like, these people are guilty. You know why they're guilty? Because we say so, and that's why they're guilty.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's
Well, especially like the quiet mouth breather type guy.
Oh,
He has some really good fucking lines.
Is that the guy who's like kind of like he's kind of talking about the FBI agents and he's like almost crying? It's like they were in danger and they were killed. And it's like you're like I don't want to necessarily like throw these FBI agents under the bus, but that guy, it's like that guy's lying. He's hiding something.
So his bullshit statement of he's like, hey, it's just two FBI agents, right? So logic dictates, they're not going to open fire first. They're going to react. And it's like, yeah, bullshit.
Yeah, there's like an open history here we can kind of refer to about will they open fire randomly or not. It's like, they could be nice guys, and for the sake of their families, I don't want to disparage their character because I don't know. But the history of that, and I'm not even talking about Wild West history, I'm talking about 50s, 60s, 70s, is pretty brutal. I mean, a lot of it was internal, but it was done with like the oversight of the government. Like, yeah, we're just going to look the other way, and we're not going to wonder why we have 60% rates of alcoholism and all kinds of like prostitution and illegal stuff going on. And these strongman guys, it's like you literally keep the natives from getting too restless, and we'll just look the other way on this.
Well, I mean, the other
hold on 1 second. Like I really want to dive into it, but I want to get a fresh new call so we just have time.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, well, I'll call you guys back. It's weird. I feel like we didn't get like a full that second hour.
Yeah, it seemed to come up kind of quick. We talked a lot though.
Yeah. Well, I have this as like total 154 right now.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm at.
So I'm guessing we might have used some time before we started. Or remember, we're still going out, so just letting you know.
Give this about 15 more minutes, and you can pitch me, and then Stacy's going to be home.
Okay.
Late to the party as usual. Okay.
And we're back.
Yeah. So, yeah, they end up. So they end up like after the shootout where they have dead FBI agents, and they end up sending a bunch of people in like National Guard and all this stuff again, and then they just like are just gathering up miles of evidence. And then like the guys who were having the shootout like are kind of are on the run, and then they're like their car blows up.
Yeah, and that's never explained. It's just the car.
I'm assuming they were
like,
also transporting like some type of explosive they weren't supposed to be, because they had a bunch of guns in there too.
Yeah, either that or they're trying to destroy the evidence of the guns, but
maybe.
Yeah, because it didn't say anyone died in the car.
Yeah,
but it was like a complete inferno. So it's like, that might be.
But like one guy gets off to Canada, but then they arrest 2 other guys, and those guys are tried, and they move the trial to Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
And actually not, and like it kind of seems like, hey, Cedar Rapids get to be the good guys for once, I guess. But they. Because like it seemed like, oh, we're gonna put it in Cedar Rapids, and they're gonna fry these guys, and no, it goes the other way. They find them innocent, and like it's on they changed the case to kind of self defense, and like they're defending themselves against the FBI agents, and they're found not guilty, which is like absolutely surprising.
Well, the way the guy who did the defense for that, and he did the defense for Peltier too, but he lost. Yeah, he's a pretty famous attorney. Like he knows how to orchestrate that stuff. But yeah, he basically put it to what they described as the blue collar citizens of Cedar Rapids, as like, yeah, what if people came into your house and started shooting? It's like, well, you shoot back. And they also had a judge that was seemed to be interested in running a fair trial, and excluded a lot of evidence. Like you can't show them. Because they described the crime scene photos of the FBI agents, because essentially the one guy's jaw got blown off, and they were just shot to pieces. And they didn't show that at the trial. The judge excluded that because it's like, well, that's the aftermath. That's not really, like, we know they're dead. We don't need to get this in the jury's face and get them shook up. We know what you're trying to do, so they wouldn't let the government introduce that. So when they brought Peltier to trial, they suddenly had a different federal judge. And this guy let all the evidence in, including wacky ballistics match stuff, which everyone who looked at it was like, well, this is clearly nonsense. But
there's interesting stuff with the they talk about like it's like they're pitting everything against it, like at least in the court of public opinion, where it's like, all right, we're in Cedar Rapids. This is a case with AIM people, so everybody lock your cars because there's going to be a lot of criminals coming to town. It's like, really priming everybody to believe is guilty, huh?
Yeah.
I like the one juror that talked out about that later, where he was like, yeah, people have been saying, that we're guys.
Well, no, so the prosecutor's like, AIM people are going to the jury's house and intimidating him, and the juror's like, that's bullshit.
I know.
No, and I love that part of the documentary because like you guys have already touched on it before, like all the prosecution people were very much like staunch, like, oh yeah, these people are just fucking pieces of shit. We're the good guys, and you don't trust us or whatever.
Well, yeah, it's like 2 FBI agents are killed. Like somebody has to hang for this, and that's what's going on.
350 FBI agents showed up within 2 fucking days to help cordon off and surround that compound and drive those people off and try to kill them. Not that they didn't kill one guy, but at the same time, it's like that's the kind of fucking fervency you're looking at when you kill federal agents. I expect the same, but at the same time, it's like they turned up in 13 states they turned up evidence, and that's why this trial had to be held in Cedar Rapids, because it was a state that was kind of in the in-between. It wasn't really involved in the incidents, but it was also containing a bunch of, like you said, blue-collar racists. I mean, Americans. So, I mean, they thought they'd get a good jury out of it.
Salt of the earth is the term. Salt of the earth.
So, I mean, they thought they'd get a good trial. I wouldn't second guess that, because, I mean, in Iowa, we have just as many people that are open-minded as closed-minded.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, yeah, they didn't get what they wanted, and so they went to North Dakota, the place where everybody's closed-minded.
Well, there's one guy off in Canada where they get Canada to like extradite him by I forget what they do. They basically just trick him into doing it. It's like
Yeah, so Canada, because the one guy there that was talking about it openly, that they led to them interviewing.
Oh yeah, they just make up some evidence, and that with that lady.
The
They have
local
3 different
crackhead
affidavits.
and somebody else, and they make up evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've also intimidated witnesses in both trials along the way to get what they wanted and shit. The one witness from the first trial in Cedar Rapids, where his landlady came and testified to his character because he was also practicing to be a witness of the JFK assassination. So, I mean, it's just like you don't have any good evidence. I mean, this is like the worst case scenario for a prosecutor. You literally have no witnesses probably that are actively at the scene that want to testify. You have no real evidence because it's the fucking 70s. You don't have drone footage. You don't have cell phone data. You just have fingerprints and ballistics.
Yeah, and the ballistic is compromised, but...
Yeah, the ballistics are compromised, and both your witnesses that could actually be on your side are both horribly dead. So the fact that they could prove anyone was here and press any charges against is beyond me, because I don't know how the fuck they ever came up with the people that came up with this.
And so they find the guy guilty, and then like they're trying to like retry the case, and they find that they could run the ballistics, or they actually did, but they suppressed them because like so much of this case is like still classified under the like they get some of it from the Freedom of Information Act, but some of it's still classified because of FBI informants or not, or they just make it up, which
Yeah, I believe one over the other at this point.
Yeah, because like I see pictures of the AR-15, it's like you can still fire that thing. And like I know it was on a fire, but that barrel and the bolts seem like they're pretty good to go.
Not the first time the FBI has been in trouble for shaky ballistics stuff. This has been a recurring theme with the FBI.
And the FBI also can't tell the difference between a truck and a van.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like because I was that same guy that was like, FBI agents wouldn't fire unprovoked. And it's like people would believe that's a truck.
Out here in the country, sometimes we just call everything a truck, an RV, garbage truck. He was spinning this like, no, you wouldn't. A truck is a very specific thing, especially at that time. Now they're sort of ubiquitous. It's like you would use the term SUV maybe, but yeah, back then everything it wasn't all a truck. There was a truck, there was a van.
Yeah, and so that guy is still in jail. He's in Florida, a Florida jail.
Yeah,
now.
and he's actually been in the news recently because he has COVID, and they're trying to get him to get released from prison because he's going to die in prison probably.
He's one of the few people Obama would not pardon.
Yeah.
Obama said he would not pardon him because federal agents were killed.
Yeah, also he broke out of jail in like 99 or something.
Yeah, he's got a colorful history.
He's also ran for president multiple times.
I'd vote for him. Be a fun choice.
Well, I mean, based off his interviews in the documentary,
I can't vote, but I'll be your president.
Not in some loophole where you like, yeah.
I mean, he's in Florida right now.
Yeah.
In prison down there. I don't know what all states he's been incarcerated in at this point.
Yeah, he got moved from one because he got like attacked in jail, but I'm not sure. So it's been all over.
I like how the documentary crew framed him because it didn't look like he was in jail.
I didn't know he was in prison. I'm like, oh, he got away too. Like eventually the case got overturned. Like, nope, he's in jail.
No, I knew he was in jail because I'd heard about Peltier before.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I don't think he got out any time because I remember, like Obama wouldn't pardon him. That was the last time I heard about it. Obama pardoned someone who like betrayed secrets and stuff, but it's like, no, not this guy. It's like he's not supposed to be in jail. He might not be like a good guy, but I'm pretty convinced by this documentary he wasn't the one shooting. I mean, I don't know who these random people were with the truck full of dynamite, but that story like actually clicks. Like, oh yeah, those people would be motivated to murder federal agents because that's like big time. You get caught with explosives you're not supposed to have. But
Well, that, and I mean, just the whole story syncs up to with, the tactics of the goon squads was to, terrorize and come in fast, hit hard, and leave. So it makes sense that they would, be ready for a fight, even if they were the ones to open fire first, and it was those people that they had singled out and brought to trial. It makes sense that they would be on the defensive and fire first.
Well, remember when those two women were talking about how their family got killed?
Yeah.
And they just like, because the guy, the I can't remember the guy's name, but the evil tribal leader, they were just firing into a house like for an extended period of time. They didn't do a drive-by. They just stood in the lawn, racked back their guns, boom, 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 and just kept firing through the house just to kill people. That's not to terrorize people or anything else. It's like, oh, you're just trying to murder everyone in that house. Because the other guy, his whole house got burned. One of the guys that was in the thing, they said later, it's like, oh, yeah, his whole family got killed when his house burned down. And it's like, well, that was that didn't happen. I doubt that was like a kitchen fire that wiped out the whole family. I'm sure somebody threw gas all over the house and they just waited outside with guns and these people died. But
no, and that's the thing. I mean, I guess I wasn't trying to frame it as like they only did like smash and grab type things, but like they very much like the one where they like reared into that car and crushed a bunch of people or whatever, and just harassing people out in the open or shooting me out in the open, stuff like that. I mean, it's just they obviously
and they were government funded.
Well, yeah, they're government funded. Even though the prosecutors are like, they knew about it, but there wasn't anything bad going on.
The interview with the fucking guy where he's like, "Did you shoot him?" Is like, "Those are your words."
Yeah.
But yeah, like because the whole thing with the FBI agents like coming in and shooting first, the reason why I believe it isn't necessarily FBI's penchant for doing that, but just because if you're two FBI agents out in the middle of nowhere, the poorest reservation in the U.S., and you're giving high-powered firearms and a badge in 2 cars, and the only thing you're investigating is boot theft, what do you think you're gonna do? You're gonna be pissed off. You're spending all your time in the middle of nowhere, and you're chasing down one guy for a pair of boots no one cares about.
I got a law degree, and this is what I'm doing.
It's like because when they said Jimmy Eagle or whatever his name was, I was expecting it to be like something violent like domestic abuse, arson, something like on the FBI's thing that might actually make sense for the use of 2 FBI agents. Not like a pair of boots that are like $20 or some shit. That seems like a local matter that should be resolved with local resources.
And were these FBI agents like, were they familiar with the tribes and like were they working?
They were assigned to that reservation.
Okay, so like they know everybody has guns, right?
You would think.
Either that or they're just doing a bad job. We can do this.
I mean, according to that, they were assigned to that area. So, I mean, I guess I didn't know there's FBI agents assigned to reservations. I don't know if that's still the way.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. There was like cops, and then there was like a separate organization that was like Indian Affairs, like police Indian Affairs or whatever.
Yeah. Well, because I know every reservation has its own police force. Like, if you're like a county sheriff, you can't just go into the reservation and enforce laws because that's not how it works. But at the same time, I guess I didn't know where law jurisdiction nowadays like superseded anything. Because the only thing I hear about reservations around here is from the guy that I know that like worked up in Tama for a while. He told me some stories, but other than that, like he didn't say anything else about like the jurisdiction chain of command.
Yeah, I don't know like where federal law can supersede that stuff or not, because like it's like, or maybe because like it's like you can allow gambling on because it's like this is sovereign land, like you can't enforce your laws here, so we can have gambling or whatever we want. So
no, federal law supersedes everything. Those are just sovereign nations within the United States.
Yeah,
but they're still under the purview of the federal government.
Okay,
that's what I figured, but at the same time, I spent a lot of time on reservations or know a lot of federal.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I just looked it up because I was confused too. It was like, what's all this? Like, what kind of crimes were going on that necessitated the FBI's continuous presence? And then I found out it's like, oh, the FBI's federal law enforcement. That's that's what that is.
Yeah, I mean, this is like starts in the Nixon administration, so it's like we're looking for non-white people to fuck with. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's the vibe I get. That it's like, yeah, there's just a lot of depressing sadness and what would you say, like indifference to people that like, oh, this is really terrible. I mean, but I live near Detroit, so it's like that's really terrible too. But when you have to engage it and deal with it every day, you get really caustic and jaded. After a while, you're like, I don't want you to live this way, but God, this is frustrating. It gets like, you kind of get like jaded, like, oh yeah, I can't do anything about this.
Maybe if those 2 FBI agents had lived, they would have started investigating all the gang-style murders in the reservation finally or something. I mean, I think that would have been the higher up priority, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, see, that's the vibe I get from this is like, I mean, yeah, there's like straight up like racism but really what the vibe that comes across to me more is just indifference to these people. It's like, let them settle their own affairs. Yeah, they can shoot up the reservation and we're happy with a cursory investigation as long as we can check all the boxes and then continue as you were. That's almost worse than that kind of negligence is like the worst kind because that just perpetuates. It's like, yeah, there's no solution here and we don't care. As long as, we get our pension or whatever. It's a sad story. But it was interesting. I learned a lot from this that I didn't know. This is one of those corners of history in my own country I know nothing about.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything about it either because, I mean, obviously I know that Americans in general and Native Americans especially have not been happy with the deal of being stuck on reservations and having their rights and their lands taken from them and stuff, and it continues to this day. I mean, I know a tribe locally in New York just got some land back this last year that was tribal land. There are people still trying to get most of Oklahoma back for their tribe through the courts and petitions and stuff like
there's
that.
still crazy stuff, in Canada as well. So.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, Canada's fucking Jesus Christ. Like the whole reform school thing or whatever, like the missionary like graveyards and stuff. Yeah, that's just as fucked up as anything we've done. But at the same time, there's a lot of shit in this country that nobody talks about, and according to Republicans, we shouldn't talk about bad things anymore. We should just talk about all the good things we're gonna do, or whatever. I don't know. I guess could this be filed under critical race theory, or do we have to talk about something else?
Well, this goes back to like if you want to really, file this under something, is like this is part of the whole. In addition to slavery, this is part of that whole weird original sin of America. Remember the documents we read that like this is land is all men are created equal, but except, yeah. Well, it's also America's like there has been improvement because when this country was first started, you had to be a white landowner to vote. If you were working someone else's land, even if you were white, you didn't get to vote. You had to own land to vote. That slowly got phased out. Women were able to vote like what 100 years ago. When did universal suffrage come in?
Is that 1880?
No.
When is it?
No, it was in the 1900s.
Yeah, it was the 1900s.
It's like the movement might have started then, but not.
It's the world's most deceptive title, universal suffrage.
Yeah.
So what Nathan was trying to say is you used to have to be a white landowner to vote. Now you just have to be white.
Yeah. It's a progress. Yeah.
You want to stop women's suffrage, right? Yeah, I don't want them to suffer. Like, haha, I got you.
That's like the argument about somebody put like petitions in schools as a gag to say, hey, we cannot let foreign cultures infiltrate our societies. We have got to stop teaching the use of Arabic numerals in our schools. It was done as a goof, but some people were like, yeah, we don't need any of that Arab stuff in our schools. And, it's like, oh, so we're going to go back to Roman numerals? It's like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't know what you meant.
So it got the women's right to vote was passed in 1919 and ratified in 1920.
So, okay, yeah, it wasn't really, we're not talking ancient
100 years ago.
Oh,
yeah. So.
And the equal rights movement's still ongoing. But at the same time, I don't fucking know. There's so much goddamn history like nobody teaches. As far as like, I was really surprised this took place, or some of it took place in Cedar Rapids. That a lot of it took place throughout the country, as far as protests and arrests and all this other stuff.
But
Obviously,
yeah, also talking like the Nixon administration, Vietnam. There's like a lot of things that will that will paste this over. So, like the only thing that makes it stand out is like 2 FBI agents were killed. Like what?
Yeah.
It's like, what about like the thousands of Native Americans that were killed by a government backed, like government internally? It's like, that's their problem.
Yeah. Let them handle their own affairs. This is not, this we're going to be hands off. Now, if we find gold or oil on any of those reservations, yeah, you guys are in trouble.
I did not know until talking to somebody recently about the Meskwaki Reservation here in Iowa that women cannot own property on those reservations. So they all get houses and per diems, and as soon as their husband dies, their house is taken from them, and they're pretty much homeless.
Oh my God.
And it's like, why the fuck would you do that? It's like, that has nothing to do with anything.
Well, that's like those head twisting arguments you can, if you really want to wrap, people that are like super liberal about things. It's like, yeah, how do you feel about Islam and women? Because everyone's like always like, oh no, Islam's good. I don't feel one way or another about it, but there's like this argument about, yeah, what about Islam and women? How do you reconcile that? Because you don't want us to be racist against anyone who's a foreigner that's a Muslim, but it's like they don't treat women very well, and it's it's kind of an ethos over there. Oh, but
I mean, they don't treat anybody that isn't a straight male well.
Yeah, but particularly women are like, it depends on where you're at, but I've heard horror stories about just exactly what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, once the husband dies, you just throw the woman in a ditch, and her eldest son gets all the property or something. And it's like, yeah, that's weird. That doesn't happen in like in America or Europe, but there's there are countries we do business with a lot of, like Saudi Arabia, like they're all in on stuff like that.
Oh, I know, and that's the thing. I think it's not. I mean, speaking as somebody that thinks they're progressive, I guess. Like, it's not so much hating any culture or anything. It's just hating the idea that not everybody is equal. That basically, just because you're born in Saudi Arabia doesn't mean you can't have the same rights as somebody that's born in Sweden or whatever. I mean, it's about treating everybody equally and trying to get the best outcome for everybody. Not just you locally, but everybody. So it's talking about me being responsible with my money and what I do to the earth, so I don't impact somebody in India that doesn't have anything and has shittier environment than I do.
I guess what we can take away from this is every culture, every society on the planet has something to reconcile. There's no angels anymore. No. We all have things to work on. Some cultures and systems have better ideas than the others. Some cultures are aspirational to be better, but they don't follow through, like ours. Like America's very aspirational. We have very impressive democratic forms. We talk about the nice things we want to do or are trying to do, but there is a history there that can be talked about. But it's not an ongoing history. That's the thing. It's like, yeah, that is a history. Like nobody is saying, well, let's return to the Jim Crow South or something like that. I mean, some people say, oh, it's better.
Yeah, ridiculous people are saying that. But
yeah, but nobody pays attention. Those guys don't have a lot of power. I mean, the Republicans and the right wing of our political spectrum will try to play to those people's fears, but they do nothing for them. As we can, we just went through 4 years of Trump. There's no border wall. There are all these things that were supposed to. The jobs didn't magically reappear. Everyone knew that was the case.
But Nathan, profits went up, so job potential was,
We can get wrapped around the axle and bullshit all we want, but the bottom line is, are you better off today than you were when? I mean, maybe some people are.
Well, I just don't I guess. As far as like the day-to-day survival in any country, why don't people process that more? I can understand being stuck in the grind and just surviving till the next day, but at the same time, if you can get your head out long enough to like look at the horizon. Why can't you figure out that you're not more fucked or just as fucked with that choice?
I don't know.
I don't know, probably because like we're contemplating this stuff and we're trying to be rational about it, but we're also idiots. But remember, other people are bigger idiots than us. They don't contemplate. There's no rationale. They just exist.
Yeah, I joke around about me personally like having no introspection or morals, but really that's just a joke. I'm just saying that as like a goof. There are some people who really don't and do not have that capability. I mean, not only don't they, but it's like, oh, it's a skill they could develop. It's like, no, they don't have that capability. I believe there are people like that. I'm not saying they're evil or they're just, wantonly cruel, but they're indifferent. They never get outside of their own head on anything. They never think about anything. I mean, I know people who haven't read a book in 15 years. I know people, and they're fine people, but it is kind of weird sometimes when you talk to them and they like say some of this shit and you're like, really, dude? I mean, it's like, are you just living in the same world as the rest of us? It's like, what do you add? And I know I mock those people and I laugh at them and I have fun at their expense, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of them, and that's a problem. And that's not just a problem here. That's a problem in a lot of places. It's just different cultures, different languages, different ideas. But you have a lot of people that just can't get outside of themselves for anything, for a moment, not even for a second. And that's really strange. And it's like when you talk about like wanting to, let's just talk about America, because that's where we live and it's the only culture we really know well. And we don't even know all the cultures here, but we kind of know where we live. And it's like, yeah, you want to improve things. You want, people want universal health care. They want college to be paid for. And I think those are laudable goals. I don't, I want to see like the sheet on how that's going to work. I'd like to see that happen, but you're never even going to get that far because the story of America is so intertwined with commerce and capitalism. You have to separate our political process from commerce and capitalism. I don't know how you do that. And I can't imagine a world that's going to happen in, even though I think there could be some benefits from it. I don't know how that happens here. I don't, because I'm talking about going back to the founding of this country. When New York was New Amsterdam, it was strictly founded for commerce. That's it. And the people that came here to make money and not to be ruled over by kings and corrupt governments in Europe. But essentially they came here to make money. That's the whole American story. So when I hear people talk about, I want to improve things, I agree with those people. I just can't imagine in my mind how it's going to happen. Short of something we don't want. I mean, we saw how it happened in Russia. We saw how it, some of those other countries. Like, I don't want that. But I'm trying to figure out, like, always, like, how do you peacefully separate like our political system from money? I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it in Sweden. I don't know how you do it in England. I don't know how you do it in Brazil. It's like all the countries, like the Western countries, seem to be governed with some form of that in mind. And it's like, I don't know how because that's the only way we're going to solve our problems. Because if it's all just about making money, it's very short-sighted. And I'm as guilty of it as anyone. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what's option B? I don't know. I mean, there's been some things that have tried and they've all failed. Now, have they failed because of Western capitalist corruption and influence? I don't know. You can argue either way, but when you really read all the books about it and you sit down and you study it, it's like, how are we going to get from A to B? And I don't know. And then when you see things like this documentary, this is like, this is a bunch of people not giving a fuck. The people that are supposed to actually be in charge of it don't care. It doesn't matter if I don't care or the guy reading the newspaper doesn't care. The people that are running the bureau and in charge of law enforcement, they're just basically like, it's just move in the goons and let them kill everyone. And everyone's kind of like, it's too difficult to imagine anything else. And you don't build careers making waves. So that's why this shit happens. And it's frustrating. But it's not all based in evil. That's a mistake people make, is that you want to call those other people like they were just evil that, allowed that to happen. It's like, it's not evil. It's callousness and indifference. But
or just pursuit of stuff that we've invented to make ourselves superior to others, like money or power.
Yeah.
Or, you know, shit that literally has no meaning to society, where everything's broken down to its natural state and it's just fighting for survival. Money doesn't make you warm, money doesn't actually feed you. But now in this society, money is everything. So unfortunately,
remember, all the poor people in America are just temporarily embarrassed billionaires.
Well, it's another thing. It's like, you remember, have you guys ever read that book Collapse? It came out about 15 years ago about why societies fail.
No.
Yeah, you've heard of this, right, Conlon?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard the book. But...
Remember they were talking about, like, who built the statues on Easter Island? Why does nobody know? Well, because the society that did it used up all the resources on that island to build those statues. We can only assume, based on the cultural traditions of the island surrounding that area where people still live, that it's like, oh, they thought if they built these monoliths to their gods, that they would have a good harvest or wealth would come their way or something. You know, it's like, ever heard the term cargo cult?
Yes.
Okay, so you understand what the logic is there. It's like, oh, if we build, when all the Americans were there fighting the Japanese and they flew into these islands where no one had ever been, when they left, the people that were left there started worshiping the names of the officers, and they built like replicas of the cargo planes out of bamboo and wood, and they made them look like just like a plane would look like if it was made out of bamboo and wood, like an effigy of a plane, because they thought if they poured resources into that they too would be wealthy and powerful, because it was about the symbols of wealth and power, not the reality of it that they understood. And that's the same thing that happened with the people on Easter Island. They starved to death because they put all their resources into building those giant statues. That's why there's no one there. It's like, why is there no one here? It's a mystery. It's like, well, they ran out of food. They ran out of resources because they were building these big statues because they thought Sky God was going to come and honor them for honoring him. And it's like, yeah. And if you look at capitalism, yeah, like you were saying, it's the same thing. It's just like, we just got to keep moving in this direction, and eventually it's all going to work out. It's no different from the guys building effigies of planes and worshiping Lieutenant John Smith on this island because they think he's like a god and he's going to come back and bring them wealth again, because they're in as bad a shape now as they were before we showed up. But they had this brief period of prosperity when all these American soldiers landed with all their gear and gave these natives a bunch of, food and tools and stuff they'd never had. They're like, oh, we want this back. So how do we get that back? It's like, oh, we build, a representation of what that was, and it will come to us by some mysterious force of the universe where belief transfers itself into results. Sometimes that works, but it has a high failure rate. So it's like publishing your first novel or something. It's like, yeah, people do it, but not everyone who wants to do it does it. So.
Well, I didn't get to share this gem last podcast because I obviously couldn't make it because of other shit. But I have a solution to the trucking problem in America.
Okay.
How to get people back on the roads and our goods back on the shelves. Eliminate all safety and background check barriers to driving. Anybody that wants to operate a truck, operate a truck. This
man,
is my idea.
I know truck drivers. I don't think they're doing background checks, man.
Oh, no. They are.
Not at CRST. Those guys are criminals.
Are they in the Teamsters?
The reason I bring this up is that one of my coworkers, I guess her new boyfriend, she's been seeing for hella months, was getting his CDL verified and everything, so he could do hazardous materials and other stuff, like other cargo, besides just hey, diapers or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess it took 6 weeks for the federal government to conduct their background check, and the states to do the same thing, to verify him to carry hazardous materials or dangerous things or other certain things you're not legally allowed to carry under a regular CDL. And so her and the other coworker that are friends proceeded to talk about how dumb that was, that he needed to go through a background check to handle hazardous materials. And I'm like, yep, seems really dumb. You have a kind face, sir. Let's give you all this plutonium. Like, we don't need to worry about what's going to happen here. Your eyes tell me the story.
Yeah, just trust. We're just going to put our faith in you that you're going to do the right thing.
Because like they didn't touch on the fact that they've lowered age limits drastically to serve in trucking services, and yes, it literally.
Yeah, I saw a thing about that, and basically, like none of that stuff's going to matter because you need people with experience on the road trucking. You can't just have a bunch of new people pop in like everything's fixed. No, now you've created a bunch of new problems.
Oh, I know, and that's. God damn it! Sorry, I just got a flag. It's like your internet connection is unstable. It may lose connection. I'm like, oh, fantastic.
Well, yeah, the one thing I know about the trucking thing, because I've talked to truck drivers, because I pretty much work on the docks more often recently than I want to, is the truckers that aren't complaining and aren't striking in the U.S. or Canada are the truckers that are in the Teamsters Union, because you know what, they have pretty good contracts, they're well taken care of. I mean, there's like UPS guys, those are all Teamsters. Now they're not always happy. Trust me, I know, but they're also not like so miserable and stressed out that they're just, independent guys taking all these weird routes. And it's like, oh, I can't drive, over 60 miles an hour anywhere. I can't make any money. I can't get enough hours. You know who's not worried about that? The Teamster truck drivers, by and large. So all these people that are out here doing this, and I found out most of the truck drivers, almost all of them in Canada, they're protesting. By the way, all that money's coming from America to fund that. It's coming from right-wing groups in America. Most of them are not unionized. There are a lot of guys that own their own companies, and they hate their government as much as our wackos here hate our government. So that's the origin of that. You want to know where the happy truck drivers are? Guys that have the good union jobs. You want to know who's pissed off and thinks it's all freedom and, it's eagles flying out of everyone's ass and this is the right thing to do, are the independent guys that for whatever reason, don't want to be, can't be, aren't, or just think they're too cool to be in the unions. So it's like, okay, well, this is what happens. Yeah, you get fucked. You don't have a big organization behind you, you get fucked. I mean, I don't love everything about the stuff I'm involved with, but I'll tell you what, I would never leave the union because I know what I would get from my company if it wasn't for them, because I've seen them do it to their subcontractors. I know what they pay them. I know how they screw them around. Those guys aren't in the union, and that's what they get. I know, because you bring up unions, everyone's like, well, they're corrupt. It's like, oh, yeah, because the company you're working for, they're just a bunch of crazy angels flying around. Yeah, they're corrupt. Yeah, and they are. Some of them are. I've seen it, but it's like, yeah, it's nothing exists in a state of grace, okay? That doesn't happen on Earth. So, yeah, it's I love that whole thing. Like, yeah, they're corrupt. It's like, yeah, so's your CEO. He's figuring out a way to pay you less, cut off your medical benefits, and not pay any taxes towards your kid's public school or anything. So that guy's legit, right? Okay. And he's already got millions of dollars or more money than he could ever spend in his life. So.
Yeah, because didn't they just Exxon and the oil or some of the oil companies in the United States just posted like 60% higher profits than last year or whatever, but then they're also like, oh yeah, we can't afford to pay anybody any more money and shit.
No, yeah.
I mean, that's like every company.
No, I know. I'm just saying, it's just like, that's always the thing. It doesn't matter if they get tax breaks. It doesn't matter if the inflation or scarcity, false or otherwise, drives the market prices higher. It doesn't matter. They always make their money. You never make yours.
Although I did find it weird that they closed down a Hy-Vee here. I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder what that's about.
I think that might have something to do with the fact they're trying to expand into other states. Cause maybe
I think it's also like the land it's on like is owned by the mall there or whatever, so they're just like getting out of like a land deal or something. Probably. Anyways.
Oh yeah, one more thing before we go. Biggest landowner in the Midwest is Ukrainian oligarch.
Oh, great.
Think about that, kids. All right. This week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.